at the zero clouds, just blue and sunshine. Let's talk more about the forecast, what to expect this weekend, including some showers. Meteorologist Brittany Bryan has details.
Good morning. We have full sunshine right now with that look in Midtown Memphis. We'll keep it nice and sunny today. That will help temperatures climb out of the 40s eventually by noon at 50 degrees, 54 at 3 o'clock, and then down to the upper 40s by 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. 54 degrees is our high temperature today, and average is 51, so we're not too far off from where we should be. And then a low temperature tonight around 32, also pretty close to normal for us to get to that freezing mark. So we'll feel chilly even late tonight, but we keep it dry today and tomorrow. If you have any Friday plans, you won't have to deal with any rain. But Saturday, a 40% chance of rain and a few showers possible on Sunday too. And then after that, we'll clear everything out. So let's look at timing for that rain. Here's First Alert Futurecast Saturday at 8 a.m. Some light rain over towards Memphis, going into Brownsville, eastern Arkansas, seeing a few showers. And then rain is on and off as we go through the morning and into the early afternoon. This is noon here on First Alert Futurecast. Some spotty rain possible, but it looks like most of this will be coming to an end during the afternoon, at least in the Memphis area. But by 6 o'clock, we have more rain that develops over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. And keep an eye on that spot because that's where we could see some heavy rain by 10 or 11 o'clock at night Saturday. We're seeing the reds and the oranges, Corinth going down into Tupelo, Ashland, Ripley. Also spots like Oxford possibly getting a few downpours through that point of the evening. And I can't completely roll out a straight light shower even through early Sunday, then we clear out after that. So rainfall totals will be highest in that area, northeast Mississippi, around a ½ inch from Holly Springs into Alcorn County. And then in Memphis, Wynn, spots like Tunica, probably around a ¼ inch of rain. So this is not going to result in flash flooding, nothing like what we had earlier this week, and also no severe weather with that one. If you want more updates on that rain chance for the weekend, go to our First Alert weather app. You can watch that First Alert Futurecast again, and I just posted a new video on there about that weekend rain. Today and tomorrow, as I mentioned, is dry. We're in the 50s, 56 degrees on Friday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday. Some spots in North Mississippi will make it to 60 degrees, and then lows in the 40s Saturday night, 50s again on Sunday, although a little bit cooler behind that front moving through, bringing that rain. And then on Monday, we're sunny, high of 56 degrees, upper 50s Tuesday, and then still in the 50s through the end of next week.
A glimmer of hope this morning for hospitalized Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin. The team says he is showing, quote, signs of improvement, although he remains in the ICU in critical condition at a Cincinnati hospital. Adrian Brodeau reports.
Thoughts everywhere with number 3 in Buffalo, where everyone is wondering if Highmark Stadium will host the big game this weekend. And the Bills Mafia is hanging on every word from the Hamlin family. In Cincinnati, a number 3 golden balloon marks the hospital where Damar's mother and father are at his bedside.
I mean, they've been there like every step of the way. So, I mean, together, like they're heartbroken, but like collectively as a family.
The Buffalo Bills tweeting, quote, Damar remains in the ICU in critical condition with signs of improvement noted yesterday and overnight. He is expected to remain under intensive care as his health care team continues to monitor and treat him. As support for the 24-year-old football player grows, his family overcome with gratitude and offers to help.
They are incredibly thankful of everything that has been out there, all of the support that they've gotten.
Hamlin's Chasing M's Foundation Toy Drive GoFundMe page now with more than $6 million in donations.
But to know that you got that circle of support from everybody to help you get through it, it means a lot.
A rare emotional outpouring at today's NFL Zoom press conference. NFL leaders saying there's no playbook for this situation and praising medical response.
The EMTs, that evening was outstanding. You gave our brother Damar another day to live.
The NFL is grappling with how to move forward into playoffs.
Obviously, we're going to have to make a decision on that in the coming days, which we will. But there's a lot of considerations at place.
Even calling into question this Sunday's Patriots-Bills game.
We have not had that discussion. We'll allow Sean and his team and his staff and the players, which are the most important thing here, to guide us if we have to make that decision.
And Wednesday's scheduled team media availabilities canceled. one day after the NFL Players Association promised its players it would have every resource available to aid and support them during this time.
Everybody that has seen it, our whole country, every football fan, everybody who's not even a part of football has seen and heard this story. So we're all handling it in different ways.
As a family, a team, and the entire country,
if there is a road, a path, a chance, DeMar will find it. That is what he has done up until this point. He has so much to give left in this life.
hold hope for a positive outcome for number 3.
Well, fans, family, and fellow players are coming together to support injured Buffalo Bill Damar Hamlin. He remains in critical condition this morning after collapsing on the field during Monday Night Football games against the Bengals. Well, Bills fans and Bengal fans, they prayed, held vigils outside the hospital. Hamlin's uncle, Dorian Glenn, spoke about his condition.
He's sustained some damage to his lungs, and they're working to try to remedy that, and they got him on a ventilator to help with the breathing too, just to take some of the strain off his lungs so they can heal and recuperate. So yeah, it's just a sad situation all the way around.
A sad situation indeed. The Bills say that Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest, had to be revived twice. Now let's take a deep dive into what exactly happened there and speak with someone who's in the know in these medical terms and various terms that we're hearing all about with regards to this story. I'm joined now by Dr. John Jeffries. He's professor of cardiology at UT Health Science Center. He also leads the new Methodist Institute for Cardiovascular Science. Dr. Jeffries, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you being here. What is cardiac arrest? A lot of people think it's a heart attack, but that's not necessarily the case. Can you explain it to us in layman's terms?
Sure. So, what happened here is that the heart stopped beating essentially, and that can be from a variety of different reasons. But what we probably saw here was not a classic heart attack, which is more of a blockage in the coronary arteries typically. This was likely more from a rhythm disturbance, which could have a variety of different mechanisms or causes. And I think those still need to be, worked out and disclosed by the healthcare providers there. But the important thing here is that CPR was initiated and a defibrillator was used to resuscitate him successfully, as you heard twice. This was required. And I think that's the big takeaway, is really people understanding the importance of CPR, the awareness of using defibrillators or what are called AEDs, which are available usually in public forums to help save people's lives. And that's really what happened here, is a rapid institution of CPR made a huge difference.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of those things is I saw the play. I was watching the game live, and when I saw the play, it looked like anything, a very routine tackle. Didn't look like anything super severe or super strong or super combative. It was just a routine tackle, and then he went into cardiac arrest. How do you explain that in medical terms of why something so routine had this devastating effect?
Yeah, we'll need more information to fully understand exactly, probably mechanistically, what was going on here. But we do know there are conditions where pressure to the chest wall, it's a condition called commotio cordis, can actually lead to unusual heart rhythms, which can be fatal. And so essentially this is the heart having a pressure applied to it, and which could happen in football or any other sport actually. And it essentially disrupts the normal heart rhythm. So if it's timed perfectly on the way that the heart rhythm tracing is occurring, it can induce a thing called ventricular fibrillation, which is essentially the heart not beating. It's fibrillating or squeezing at a really rapid pace, but means there's no real blood flow going out to the body. And that's where the use of a thing like a defibrillator would be very helpful. And then during that time period between when that fibrillation occurs and when you can apply the defibrillator is when CPR is hugely important and is an essential to a successful resuscitation and restoration of normal circulation. So it's hard to know exactly for sure what happened because we just don't have enough information, but that's absolutely a possibility. There are other types of heart diseases that could lead to something like this. There's a condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy that sometimes we see in athletes. And that's information that can be obtained, through imaging of the heart, like an ultrasound or an echocardiogram. So all of that information will still need to come to us, but this idea of this hit to the chest that can induce a bad heart rhythm has been a known entity for many years. And we do see it more commonly in younger athletes and young males. Interestingly, similar, in the sex predilection here we see in a male, but it's usually around 15 years of age or so. But it can occur in other ages, and it can occur in other sports. So I think the awareness of this is hugely important, and understanding that things do occur in sports that can be unanticipated. As you've heard from many of the NFL players, they're used to seeing joint injuries and orthopedic injuries, but something like cardiac is not as common, but obviously hugely impactful. And what can we do to help when these things do occur to be best prepared? And I think that's where CPR and having availability of defibrillators is hugely important.
Yeah, we've many stories about the need and the necessity to have AEDs in various public areas. I know the church that I attend, we have a couple of AEDs set up in different areas where people congregate, the need for it. I'm curious, though, here is a 24-year-old in top peak physical condition, and he has this cardiac arrest, and I've heard the term that you mentioned, commotio cordis, but I understand it is extremely rare. And forgive me for saying this, but I'm a huge football fan. I've never seen anything like this happen ever, where a game is stopped because someone's heart is stopped on the field during the play. So I'm just curious, I mean, if we're listing some of the reasons why this happened, and again, we don't know because we don't have all the information, but where does that list, start with the most probable sense, and where do we go from there?
Yeah, I think, based on, as you said, we don't have all the information. Based on what we know, this probably was a primary cardiac issue. So when people have an arrest, it can be from different things. It's not just your heart always. Sometimes it could be a lung issue or other things that are more systemic from the pathophysiologic perspective. But based on what we're seeing, the abruptness, the need for a defibrillator would typically indicate this is probably cardiac in origin. And then you start thinking about, as you said, young guy, healthy, obviously very fit person. What are the things that could happen? We do know there could have been underlying circumstances that were there. As I said, maybe a cardiomyopathy or something. Be very atypical for those sorts of things to be there because of the screening processes that these players go through. But they can have very subtle changes sometimes that aren't always detected. So that is a possibility. But I think the more likelihood, based on what we saw on video and knowing that this can occur in young athletes, that the commotio cordis may be the most likely possibility. As I said, to have more information would give us a lot more opportunity to best understand and to tag what the cause was. But this is a hard thing to understand if you think about it. Someone playing football, they don't have a heart monitor on when they're playing typically. So the idea of being able to look at the heart rhythm at the time of the impact and then subsequent to that is not available to us. So the only time we're going to have any heart rhythm data is when they put that defibrillator on and we were actually able to see what the rhythm looked like. So the time from the actual impact until the time of the defibrillator is sort of going to be an unknown from a rhythm perspective. So to say definitively that's exactly what happened, part of this is really going to always be a little bit of an unknown consideration because we just don't have the data to accurately document exactly what happened. But I think based on, a young, healthy person, it does make it a likely possibility that commotio cordis was what happened here. I'm sure that extensive testing has been done at the University of Cincinnati, excellent healthcare system. I'm sure they're doing everything to best define exactly what, if there was any underlying cardiovascular pathophysiology that was there prior maybe. And then more importantly, what do we do moving forward to keep him safe, right? So get him through this to the best of their ability. And then how do we protect him long term? And part of that's really understanding about what happened. So that'll be through extensive testing and other things. But once again, let's say it was commotio cordis, let's say it was cardiomyopathy, like a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The sudden death phenomenon is a common pathway for all of those diagnoses. And that's where really coming back to not necessarily knowing exactly what he had, but we know what the end result was. And that was a cardiac arrest, is knowing what we need to do. And that really is back to rapid response. For bystander CPR, unfortunately, occurs in less than half of the cases that occur in the United States. And this is cardiac arrest is a common phenomenon, not in this age group, obviously, but about 350,000 cardiac arrests occur each year. So understanding if that's in a public forum, it's important for people to get involved and to initiate 911, to initiate CPR, to look around for the AED, as you were alluding to at your church. All those things are hugely important because that's ultimately what was able to gain back circulatory sort of flow in this young man and able to get him to the hospital where he could get adequate care. So, this is such a bad situation. And I think it really comes back to increasing awareness is that cardiovascular disease kills more people in the United States than anything else. And what can we do to help mitigate that? How can we improve outcomes? And CPR and defibrillators are absolutely a vehicle to do that.
Let me ask you about markers here, because a lot of people are wondering what kind of preventative steps could have stopped this event before happening. I mean, a lot of people are just wondering, would there have been tests to give, just kind of an alert or something that says, hey, there's an issue here and it needs to be addressed immediately?
It's a great question. I think these players, obviously high school, college, professional athletes go through screenings and physical exams, and so extensive testing is done. So, that's having the sort of pre-existing heart disease comes as a lesser likely possibility here. If it really was commotio cordis, and as I said, that's really a hard thing to diagnose in a retrospective sort of fashion, but based on the information that we have, if that's really what was going on, there really aren't any preventive strategies that can occur. Even people that wear chest protectors, and so this is seen in other sports, as I said, things like soccer and whatnot. People that wear chest protectors, that still doesn't always protect you from a cardiac arrest secondary to commotio cordis. So this was really just a bad timing event, and it is exceedingly rare. If you think about, we're talking about a very exact hit during the cardiac cycle when the heart rhythm is going. It has to be very precise, and it has to be in a certain spot, typically on the chest. So for that to occur is very, very rare. But once again, I don't think there's anything that we could have done preemptively if that were the cause here to avoid this. It's one of those things that it may happen in any situation, and you have to be prepared to deal with the consequence of commotio cordis, right, and that ventricular fibrillation. And that's where learning CPR and having access to defibrillators is very important. And remember, this is a very rare phenomenon. Things like heart attacks are very common, right? And we see that very commonly in the Mid-South. And it's going to be the same application, 911, CPR, defibrillator if appropriate, right? And I think those are all of the things that really bring us back to the importance of people just understanding how to react in these situations. Watching it at home, I've seen this in real life, real time at sports events, and it's surreal. It's so unusual, and and people are looking around, someone falls to the ground unexpectedly, and you really don't know what to think initially. It's like, wow, I wonder what's going on. Did he pass out? Did he hurt his leg, something? And it's almost like time freezes a little bit. And you have to be aware of what's going on and really institute the appropriate measures, because about 90% of people that experience an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, which is what happened here, do not make it. And that is absolutely tragic. And what can we do to make a difference in that situation? So I think there'll always be people looking back at these situations, and appropriately so, to say, is there anything else that we could have done? But I don't think, if this was really commotio cordis, that there was probably anything preemptively that could have been done. It's really about the reaction to what happened. And the teams there really did a great job at stepping onto the field, knowing what was going on, and intervening quickly. But I think it just comes back to doing appropriate screenings if you're going to play sports, right? If your family are going to play sports, make sure you go through the right steps to do as much as you can to ensure safety. And then during sports, things happen. And as we said, oftentimes that's more of an orthopedic sort of a thing, or maybe head trauma and whatnot, but cardiac is still a part of the consideration. And making sure that we're prepared to deal with that, I think, has to be an important step for us moving forward as a community.
Sure. So, Dr. Jeffries, one final question. He had to be revived 2 different times on the field there. What does that tell you about the severity of what happened, and why was that the case?
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly about what was going on, without looking at the data. But this rhythm we're talking about, ventricular fibrillation, is a very unstable heart rhythm, and so it can come and go. And you have to remember, they were resuscitating him, and during that time period, there's no real, there's very limited circulation to the body, right, except for what we're accomplishing with CPR. And when you resuscitate someone, the heart starts getting oxygen again, and sometimes it can still be a little bit irritable, right? And that's probably what happened here, is that he was shocked, hopefully returned into a thing called sinus rhythm, but then the heart is still in a very unstable situation. It's very irritated, and for whatever reason, it can flip back into these unstable heart rhythms, something like ventricular fibrillation. And if that happened, remember, that's essentially no blood flow to the body. And so you have to reinstitute the CPR, and then you want to shock again, because that would be an appropriate rhythm to defibrillate. And that's probably what happened, is that had an unusual heart rhythm or a pathologic heart rhythm like ventricular fibrillation, shock, probably got back into some sort of a relatively stable heart rhythm. Heart was still irritable, went back into an unstable heart rhythm, something like a ventricular tachycardia or ventricular fibrillation, which required a second defibrillation. But those are the appropriate things to do, and that's exactly what these devices do, is that they help understand what the heart rhythm is, if it's appropriate to shock for that heart rhythm, because remember, we don't want to shock all the time. Some heart rhythms actually don't respond well to being shocked. And then they deliver the shock, and then they'll tell you if the appropriate heart rhythm has been restored, or maybe you need to shock again. And so the team there did a tremendous job, and now it's just a waiting game. We hope that during the resuscitation the perfusion was good, and that hopefully all of his end organ function and all those things are going to be good walking out of this situation. But that's one of those things that time will tell ultimately. But I think, once again, encourage everyone to learn about CPR. The American Heart Association has mechanisms to do that, and please do that, because this could happen anywhere, anytime. Be clear, this is not just something that's unique to the NFL.
Sure. Why don't we end with that, Doctor? Can you give us maybe a place someone could go if they're watching this where they can sign up and learn CPR?
Absolutely. So the American Heart Association has, you can go on the web. It's heart.org/CPR. There are other mechanisms to learn CPR, as you're alluding to. Your church, your community outreach oftentimes will do CPR. But I would just encourage everyone, and if you need help, please reach out to the American Heart Association. They can absolutely facilitate that. It's an easy skill to learn, and it saves lives. It's just that simple. It saves lives, and I hope we can teach not only our adult community, but our young people in the community as well, because they're going to be at these sporting events too, to learn the basics of CPR, because it really is a game changer, and it saved this young man's life.
No question about it. Dr. John Jeffries, appreciate you, UT Health Science Center, and you lead the new Methodist Institute for Cardiovascular Science. We appreciate the deep dive into this topic about what happened at Monday Night Football and ways to really get the word out and help others with AEDs and CPR training. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your time.
Good morning. We have full sunshine right now with that look in Midtown Memphis. We'll keep it nice and sunny today. That will help temperatures climb out of the 40s eventually by noon at 50 degrees, 54 at 3 o'clock, and then down to the upper 40s by 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. 54 degrees is our high temperature today, and average is 51, so we're not too far off from where we should be. And then a low temperature tonight around 32, also pretty close to normal for us to get to that freezing mark. So we'll feel chilly even late tonight, but we keep it dry today and tomorrow. If you have any Friday plans, you won't have to deal with any rain. But Saturday, a 40% chance of rain and a few showers possible on Sunday too. And then after that, we'll clear everything out. So let's look at timing for that rain. Here's First Alert Futurecast Saturday at 8 a.m. Some light rain over towards Memphis, going into Brownsville, eastern Arkansas, seeing a few showers. And then rain is on and off as we go through the morning and into the early afternoon. This is noon here on First Alert Futurecast. Some spotty rain possible, but it looks like most of this will be coming to an end during the afternoon, at least in the Memphis area. But by 6 o'clock, we have more rain that develops over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. And keep an eye on that spot, because that's where we could see some heavy rain by 10 or 11 o'clock at night Saturday. We're seeing the reds and the oranges, Corinth going down into Tupelo, Ashland, Ripley, also spots like Oxford possibly getting a few downpours through that point of the evening. And I can't completely roll out a straight light shower even through early Sunday, then we clear out after that. So rainfall totals will be highest in that area in northeast Mississippi, around a ½ inch from Holly Springs into Alcorn County. And then in Memphis, Wynn, spots like Tunica, probably around a ¼ inch of rain. So this is not going to result in flash flooding, nothing like what we had earlier this week, and also no severe weather with that one. If you want more updates on that rain chance for the weekend, go to our First Alert weather app. You can watch that First Alert Futurecast again, and I just posted a new video on there about that weekend rain. Today and tomorrow, as I mentioned, is dry. We're in the 50s, 56 degrees on Friday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday. Some spots in North Mississippi will make it to 60 degrees, and then lows in the 40s Saturday night, 50s again on Sunday, although a little bit cooler behind that front moving through, bringing that rain. And then on Monday, we're sunny, high of 56 degrees, upper 50s Tuesday, and then still in the 50s through the end of next week.
We have a gut-wrenching update on the deadly fire last week at a senior community in Hickory Hill. New details about the blind man who died in that fire and the incredible challenges that rescuers face due to the multiple systems failing that fateful night. Action News 5's Joyce Peterson has more on that.
First of all, it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking because we lost the sweetest man ever.
Venetia Belzer-Kimbrough, manager of the Feels Like Home Independent Senior Living Facility in Hickory Hill, choked up talking about the 72-year-old resident they lost in the December 29th fire.
He was sweet. He was kind. He was gentle. He was friendly. He was caring, and we lost him on this site. So that is the hardest part.
The deadly fire, she says, was the result of a perfect storm. Busted pipes during the freezing weather that week knocked out the fire suppression system. A fire safety inspection team, just hours before the fire, red tagged the system and told the staff to patrol the property every 30 minutes to an hour.
It was our staff and our residents that first discovered the fire, and when the alarms immediately went off, and it was isolated to a single room, not the tragedy that is here today.
A tragedy because the sprinkler system didn't work. A tragedy, says Belzer Kimbrough, because the fire lane, the road that used to connect the facility on Kirby directly to Winchester, was blocked off, she says, to give another neighborhood a private driveway.
So they get a private driveway and we lose an emergency access lane. So it took forever for the fire trucks to make their way to our property in order to stage and get the fire put out timely.
She praised the heroism of Memphis firefighters that night. 47 other residents safely evacuated. 2 seniors injured, now recovering, all temporarily sheltered at the Embassy Suites for at least the next few weeks. But a timeline for rebuilding the place that so many seniors have called home since it opened in 2015, that is now uncertain.
I don't know if I can bring them home or not. And if I can't bring them home, where am I going to put them?
Certainly an awful situation that we will continue to follow here on Action News 5. Let's talk now let's talk about what happened in Collierville earlier this week, because we have an update of what happened here. 18-year-old Kashawn Lee, 19-year-old Rebecca Bruce, they have been arrested and charged following the shooting that happened Tuesday night. They're accused of theft of property and tampering with evidence. A 17-year-old's also facing charges. Again, this stems from a reported shoplifting that happened here at the Academy Sports in Collierville involving $400 worth of ammunition. And officers say when they tried to stop the suspects then drove towards the police, trying to hit one of the officers. That's when one officer fired shots. No one was hit. The TBI continues to investigate. A proposed aggressive approach to tackling Tennessee's backlog of untested rape kits. Tennessee State Senator London Lamar of Memphis filed Senate Bill 71 this week. The bill calls on the TBI to test rape kits within 30 days of receiving the kits from law enforcement agencies. It also calls on the TBI to submit a plan for eliminating the existing backlog. The bill will be put through the paces during the upcoming legislative session, which begins next Tuesday. Also, a changing look for the Memphis Police Department. Maybe you've spotted them around town, but the department is rolling out these new blue take-home vehicles. The SUV was called to a crash on Poplar last night. The department has not had a formal take-home program until one was implemented back in October of last year. Over 11 million visitors chose Memphis as their vacation or business destination this past year. This morning, Memphis tourism leaders say the city is well on its way to pre-pandemic numbers, even surpassing some of those. Kelly Cook has more.
You gotta love a city where around 12 in the afternoon you can find a guy marching down Bill playing his guitar. Find this couple from Austria, another from Knoxville, and a first-timer from the Windy City.
Well, I just want to see what kind of food they have here.
Food, sports, and the city's rich cultural history. And the #1 driver for tourism in Memphis? Of course, it's music.
I love blues, so I don't know if there's any around here, or we'll have to see at nighttime. And
listen, we got some blues,
you got
trust
some
me.
blues? All right, then I'm gonna love this place.
There's been a lot of love for the Bluff City. 1 million additional visitors came to the area from October 2021 to October of last year. And in certain categories, the city is surpassing pre-pandemic numbers. Day trips to Memphis increased by over 18%. Downtown hotels have seen a full recovery, demand growing by 35%. Travel party size has rebounded as well. And getting them here isn't by chance.
Everything that we do is based in research. We spend over $1 million a year just on various metrics and research tools.
While regional tourists are still the major draw, targeting international guests will be an additional priority. COVID travel restrictions nearly depleted international travel numbers in 2020, but economists are expecting a full rebound in 2023.
Memphis is positioned to take full advantage of that. We were one of the few destinations that did not stop our international marketing efforts during COVID. A lot of people just completely shut their operations down.
In fact, in Memphis, they increased it. In places like Australia, where a portion of the new Elvis Presley movie was filmed. Recently, Australia outranked Germany in most international visitors to the Mid-South. moving into the 3rd spot behind the UK and Canada.
Okay, that was Kelly Cook reporting there. 2022 is a wrap. We are now in January. January 4th means tax time is coming up before you know it. And as you prepare for your tax return, IRS warning of some scams designed to steal your tax information. We have consumer investigator Carice Jackman with more on watching your wallet.
Tax season is fast approaching, and experts warn scammers are gearing up to steal your critical personal information.
There are millions of dollars every year that fall victim to these scams, and so it's a really huge problem.
Kimberly Palmer from NerdWallet says oftentimes victims are tricked into giving out their tax information.
And they reach out to taxpayers claiming that they urgently need their personal information, their financial information, because you owe taxes, fees, penalties. But of course, none of that is true.
The IRS says scammers trick people in many ways. Sometimes it comes in the form of a text with bogus links claiming to be from the IRS or other tax services. Another common phishing technique, a fraudulent email that appears to be from the IRS or a program closely linked to it. Remember, the IRS will never contact you through social media, via text, or initiate contact with you via email. The IRS says if you receive an unsolicited text, take a screenshot of it and include the screenshot in an email to phishing@irs.gov. Make sure you tell the IRS the date, time, and time zone you received the message and the phone number that received the text message. Remember, never click on links or open attachments from unsolicited, suspicious, or unexpected text messages.
Anytime anyone reaches out to you saying that they're from the government or from some official organization, just to verify.
Jacob Channel from Lending Tree says if you think you've been conned by scammers, reach out to your bank and the IRS as quickly as possible.
The longer you wait, the harder it'll be to get your money back.
With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
Well, we know about too much alcohol. That can do a number on your health, and research shows excessive alcohol can lead to all kinds of problems with cancer, heart disease, liver disease, digestive problems, depression, and so much more. That's why Americans are starting the new year with a resolution to abstain alcohol for at least 1 month. It's called Dry January, and in today's Best Life Report, here's some advice on ways to go dry. If you've had one too many drinks this holiday season, you might want to consider a dry January. Studies show a month-long fast from alcohol can improve sleep, reduce cholesterol, lower blood pressure, aid in weight loss, and it can reduce liver fat by a whopping 40%.
During this pandemic, a lot of patients are being more free with their alcohol use or allowing themselves to have a worse diet than usual. And all of this can damage the liver in the long term.
If you're thinking about giving up alcohol, first, write down your goal and post it somewhere that you'll see every day. You might want to enlist a buddy to join you in your efforts. Get rid of all the alcohol in your house so there's no temptation, and find alternatives to alcohol. Mocktails are popular choices, especially if you're in a social setting or a bar. They're cocktails without alcohol. You might also want to try non-alcoholic beers and wines. A kava drink is another popular substitute for alcohol. Kava is a plant that can be brewed into a calming tea or other type of beverage. You can also try kombucha, a type of fermented tea. Remember, don't give up if you have a slip-up. Just keep doing your best.
Well, Amanda Hansen back here at the Action News 5 digital desk. Like they were talking about, we're now in 2023, a new year, and I want to bring in Commercial Appeal food reporter Jennifer Chandler joining us today because, Jennifer, I know you obviously huge food person. You're the person I want to go to if I'm saying, hey, where's a good place to go if I want to get amazing Asian food or whatever. You know the place in town. And you put together a story about your 5 top eats for 2022. I don't even know how you did that. How are you doing this morning, by the way?
I'm doing good. Happy New Year.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this is a story I do at the end of every year, and it is probably one of the most fun stories I get to write, but also one of the hardest because I have to narrow it down to 5, where I can tell you I've eaten so many good things throughout the year. But here's what I did to kind of help myself narrow it down. My rule is that it has to be something that I tried for the very first time in the year.
Okay.
So that really
helps a little bit.
That really helps narrow it down a little bit. And then also it helps me, and I try to also find things that are affordable. So I try to stay anything less than $25 so that everyone can go out and try those. So I'm not trying to do something that's, fancy, that's, over the top, that I paid $50 for a dish. Instead, I'm looking for things that somebody can go out and get for $10, $15. So those are kind of the parameters I gave myself when I'm doing this list. And I also really focus on only writing about people that are Memphis-owned businesses. So no chains are ever included in this list, even though I've eaten some good food at chains. But that's how I kind of curated my list here.
Well, let's
get started.
Let's roll out. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. The first one is the Good Fortune Company. They have the best chicken wings I've ever eaten in my entire life. And I have to tell you, there is a picture of me eating them. They're called the GFC wings, and these are not your normal wings. And I have to admit, I love a good chicken wing, but I usually only eat them like at the Super Bowl, or if I'm watching a football game or something like that. And but every time I go to Good Fortune Company, I order these, and I joke that I think they should be called finger looking good chicken because KFC can't hold a candle to these things. They are made with so much love. They are marinated. They are then fried once, and it's actually their whole batter that they use is gluten-free. It uses multiple flours. They're fried once, then they sit, and then they're fried a second time right before serving, so that makes them extra crispy. And the sauce is actually, this is very funny, it is a vegan sauce. It's like a honey Szechuan sauce, so it's got a little bit of sweet, a little bit of heat, but not too much. And one of the reasons they made it vegan is because so many people love this sauce, they decided to do a version with tofu for vegetarians. So if you like chicken, get the GFC wings. If you're a vegetarian, but you love the flavors of, hot wings, get the ones made with tofu. Equally, they're a little different, but equally as delicious. So Good Fortune Company chicken wings.
Hey, I want to ask though, what is this beverage that you have here? It looks delicious and it looks different. So I want to hear more about that too.
Well, yeah, so one of the things I love about Good Fortune Company, I mean, it is a tiny little place downtown on South Main, but they make everything from scratch. And as I said, they give all that love just to making a chicken wing. They make all their dumplings from scratch, all the noodles for their ramen bowls, noodle bowls from scratch. And they also have a very, very creative bar. And so that one is a matcha cocktail that I believe had whiskey in it. Ooh. And it was really tasty. And I love that little glassware. It's served like a little glass milk carton.
Right,
Isn't that
I love
hysterical?
that.
But
That's
it was
great.
really tasty. So it's always fun to go, and I always have a great time at Good Fortune Company. It's a neat little restaurant downtown if you haven't been. It's been open maybe 2 years, maybe 3.
Oh, wow.
And Arturo Lighton and Sarah Kai are the 2 owners, and they just really do a great job there.
Man, so they opened during the pandemic, it sounds like. Wow.
It was right, I believe it was right before. I mean, like literally right before. They were one of those restaurants that have been open maybe a month.
Okay. Well, hey, I mean, I've heard really good things, and obviously they're thriving and doing really well, so I love to hear that. But, okay, so let's get back to this list. I know I got a little sidetracked there. So what's next?
Well, the next one on my list is I'm going to do the wedge salad at Gray's Fine Cheeses. Okay, I know you're saying salad, but look at the salad. That is not your ordinary salad. So Gray's Fine Cheeses is over in East Memphis off Mendenhall, and it is a cheese shop that also is a wine bar. And one of the things that I love to do there is go get one of their charcuterie and cheese plates and a glass of wine. And then I feel like I need to have something a little healthy. So I ordered this wedge salad, which of course covered with Benton's bacon, a homemade blue cheese dressing. It has pickled red onions. You can see that's everything bagel seasoning over the top.
That's the best.
They actually even roast and olive oil cure the cherry tomatoes that go in there. Again, just somebody taking extra steps to really elevate something that we all know and love into something really, really special. And I have to tell you, I think this is my favorite version of a wedge salad, not that I've just had in Memphis, that I have had anywhere, anytime. It is really over the top in it. You can see it's huge. It can feed two. Because as I said, what I normally do is get the charcuterie and cheese plate and that, and we kind of split and share.
Right. And see, when I was first looking at your list, and I was like, wait, a wedge salad? And then I start reading the details, and you look at it here, and I mean, the bacon, I mean, it's loaded with bacon. I'm a girl that loves some blue cheese. And then those pickled onions. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just every bacon and any day bacon. It's Benton's bacon, you know, from East Tennessee, which is this really just wonderful, smoky bacon that is just, it's heaven. Really good on that salad.
Yeah, it looks delicious. It makes me want to go get one. So you sold me.
Okay, so next on my list, okay, this one may not look as pretty, but I have to tell you, oh my gosh, it's so sinfully good. Andrew Michael Italian Kitchen has a blue crab top focaccia. So, as I said, the picture doesn't do this dish justice. So Andrew Michael makes their focaccia in-house, and it is really, really a well done piece of bread. And so what they do for this dish is they toast it. And the chef there, Chef de Cuisine there, he is originally from New Orleans. And so what he did is he kind of did a play on kind of that crab au gratin that you get in New Orleans restaurants. That is kind of like crab that's mixed with white wine and heavy cream and simmered down. And it's like warm and it's rich and it's just so good. Well, he puts that over the top of this piece of butter toasted focaccia. And then he takes a paper thin slice of manchego cheese and lays it across the top and puts it under the broiler. So you get this kind of like, at the end, you can see where the cheese is kind of like, you know, almost like browned a little bit. So you get this kind of like creamy, crispy cheese thing going on. And then underneath all that is the crab that is just like so rich and so divine. I have to tell you, this is one of those dishes you probably do want to share because it is so over the top rich, but it is just divine. I think I've said that 5 times. That's the best way I can describe this dish.
I love listening to you talk about food because you could sit here and look at it and read the description, but when you start talking about those flavors and like the cream and the way that the cheese gets broiled on there, I'm like, man, it's just like, I'm hungry already. And I just ate breakfast. So if that says anything.
Well, I love to eat. I have to always have. That's why I have this job, is I love to eat. I'll always be on a diet because I love to eat. Speaking of not being on a diet, if you love a fried chicken biscuit, you have to go downtown on a Saturday or Sunday to Comeback Coffee to the Kinfolk pop-up. So Cole Jeans is a chef here in Memphis, and he makes the best biscuits I've ever eaten in my entire life. And he tried to start Kinfolk as a business years ago. If you remember when Puck Food Hall first opened, I think it was called at the time 409 South Main Food Hall, or he was one of the original vendors in there, and he was doing biscuit sandwiches. And then that concept kind of went through the food hall went through some changes. So he left there and he went to go work for Jimmy Gentry that owns P.O. Press, or owned P.O. Press, which was a restaurant in Collierville. And he was the sous chef there, and he ran the brunches, and he had these biscuits back on the brunch. And so we got to have those biscuits again for a little while. And then P.O. Press closed. And it's been a couple of years and those biscuits are back. And I have to tell you, they're like a Southern biscuit, but made kind of has like a French style. It has herbs de Provence in it. And what he does is he cooks the biscuit. And the only reason I really know what he does is he sold some of these at the holidays frozen that people could take home and bake themselves. And so what you do is you bake the biscuit, which has a ton of butter in it. It's so rich and so good. And then what you do is he brushes the top with a honey butter and puts it in a really high temperature in the oven. So it gives it this kind of like, almost like caramelized top to the biscuit. So the biscuits alone are fabulous, but just like the folks at Good Fortune Company, he has given a lot of love to a piece of chicken to make this fried chicken that goes on this biscuit so good. He marinates it. He uses chicken thighs, so they're a little bit richer. Fries it till it's crispy. He has his own spicy honey kind of sauce that he tosses it in. The sandwich also comes with a little smear of, he calls it kinfolk sauce, which is kind of like I guess his play on a Southern comeback sauce. And it is just so, so good. And one of these things that when you're looking at this picture of him holding this, he has in his other hand this salad looking thing that is not really a salad. It is his breakfast bowl that has like hash browns and an omelet and a biscuit and greens on top, and that's an over-the-top breakfast dish that you should try as well. But here's the deal with Kinfolk. It's only on Saturday and Sunday mornings at Comeback Coffee over in the Pinch District. Check times to see when they start. I think they start at 8 or 9 in the morning, depending on which day, but they go till they sell out, and a lot of times they're sold out by noon.
Yeah,
so
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And he does some sweet biscuits too. And, he has a whole menu that you can try, but the fried chicken biscuit was a standout for me.
It looks delicious. Yeah, I'd want a nap after eating it, though. I would, after eating the heaviness, I'd be like, I think I want to take a nap. But just looking at that biscuit, though, like you were describing with the honey, how he puts the honey on top and then, really gets it all crispy on the top. Because I was wondering, I was like, how does he make it look like that? But it's that butter and kind of that caramelization that happens there. And it looks amazing. Amazing.
It is. I keep joking with him, he needs to sell them commercially because they're so good. It's a biscuit like you've never had. And in fact, I will tell you, so this year I served him for Thanksgiving, as I did on my Thanksgiving table. And then I made my own, which I make every year. I make these pimento cheese biscuits, drop biscuits that I serve. My family all loves them. That's my Christmas brunch recipe. And my mom goes, we should have gotten some of those biscuits that we drove downtown to go pick up. I was like, oh, Mom.
You're like, oh, stabbed to the heart. But no, they look delicious.
That's
they look
okay.
So good.
They're worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last one on my list is, there are menu items that have been on forever on restaurants, and there are a reason they're on forever. And I have a funny story why I've never had this. I'm going to talk about the shrimp pot sticker at Tsunami. So this has been on the menu for years and years and years. And I eat at Tsunami all the time. It has been a favorite restaurant of my husband and I's, gosh, probably for almost the 20 years it's been open. And, but my husband is allergic to shrimp. So I have never ordered any of their shrimp things all these years. And this summer, my sister was in town, and we went and we met up at the bar at Tsunami to have a cocktail, and she ordered their shrimp pot stickers. And I was like, oh, I've never had these before. And she goes, how have you never had these before? They're my favorite. And I went, I don't know. And I took a bite, and I was like, oh, how have I never had these before? And I have to tell you, the next time I went, I told Paul, I go, I'm ordering this and I'm eating it myself. Sorry. What I love about these shrimp pot stickers is that they're light, and they're kind of like, you can tell that they're made with freshness and they're made from scratch. And there's a little bit of spice in the shrimp mixture, and they're hand formed, and they're steamed, and they have a ponzu dipping sauce, and everything is just made from scratch. There's no heaviness like sometimes you get at Asian restaurants. They're just a really nice starter, or in the case I've done once or twice now since I've had them, is they've been my main course when I've gone in. They're really, really, really good. And here's it's one of those dishes too that Ben Smith, who's the owner at Tsunami, says that he cannot take off the menu because he knows that people would be all upset with them. But they actually ended up on the menu as a fluke. He always loved pot stickers and dumplings, and he had done some special dinner and he had leftover shrimp, and they used to have a pork version on the menu. And so he experimented one day with the shrimp ones, and everyone loved them so much they stuck. And I mean, that's been over a decade. And he said he knows that if he took them off the menu, everyone would be upset.
Yeah, they'd say forget about. They'd be demanding it back, petitioning to have those back on the menu. I don't know how you did it, but you dwindled it down to 5 bites that all look delicious. And by the way, did you have a good New Year's? How was it?
We had a great New Year. So we always go, my husband is a big fly fisherman, so we always go to Heber Springs with a bunch of friends and had just a really nice friends and family weekend. So it was good. How about you?
Same. We actually went to Hardy, Arkansas, and got to hang out with a group of friends that all met us over there, and we had a really good time. It's right off a lake, so we enjoyed it. We had a really good time, and the weather was nice, so I couldn't complain. Couldn't complain at all. So yeah, it was good. It was good. So if people,
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
Hey, I have a request for anyone that wants to give me any suggestions of things I need to try this year in 2023 so they can be on this list next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you're going to get all kinds of suggestions because there's so many options here in town. But people that were maybe watching, they were like, man, my mouth's watering. I want to make sure I know where to go to get these. This story is on commercialappeal.com, correct?
It is commercialappeal.com/food. All of my stories are always there. So definitely check it out.
Awesome. Well, Jennifer, love having you on as always, and we'll see you next time, all right?
Happy New Year.
See ya. Happy New Year.
Good morning. We have full sunshine right now with that look in Midtown Memphis. We'll keep it nice and sunny today. That will help temperatures climb out of the 40s eventually by noon at 50 degrees, 54 at 3 o'clock, and then down to the upper 40s by 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. 54 degrees is our high temperature today, and average is 51, so we're not too far off from where we should be. And then a low temperature tonight around 32, also pretty close to normal for us to get to that freezing mark. So we'll feel chilly even late tonight, but we keep it dry today and tomorrow. If you have any Friday plans, you won't have to deal with any rain. But Saturday, a 40% chance of rain and a few showers possible on Sunday too. And then after that, we'll clear everything out. So let's look at timing for that rain. Here's First Alert Futurecast Saturday at 8 a.m. Some light rain over towards Memphis, going into Brownsville, eastern Arkansas, seeing a few showers. And then rain is on and off as we go through the morning and into the early afternoon. This is noon here on First Alert Futurecast. Some spotty rain possible, but it looks like most of this will be coming to an end during the afternoon, at least in the Memphis area. But by 6 o'clock, we have more rain that develops over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. And keep an eye on that spot because that's where we could see some heavy rain by 10 or 11 o'clock at night Saturday. We're seeing the reds and the oranges, Corinth going down into Tupelo, Ashland, Ripley. Also spots like Oxford possibly getting a few downpours through that point of the evening. And I can't completely roll out a straight light shower even through early Sunday, then we clear out after that. So rainfall totals will be highest in that area, northeast Mississippi, around a ½ inch from Holly Springs into Alcorn County. And then in Memphis, Wynn, spots like Tunica, probably around a ½ inch of rain. So this is not going to result in flash flooding, nothing like what we had earlier this week, and also no severe weather with that one. If you want more updates on that rain chance for the weekend, go to our First Alert weather app. You can watch that First Alert Futurecast again, and I just posted a new video on there about that weekend rain. Today and tomorrow, as I mentioned, is dry. We're in the 50s, 56 degrees on Friday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday. Some spots in North Mississippi will make it to 60 degrees, and then lows in the 40s Saturday night, 50s again on Sunday, although a little bit cooler behind that front moving through, bringing that rain. And then on Monday, we're sunny, high of 56 degrees, upper 50s Tuesday, and then still in the 50s through the end of next week.
On juvenile crime. So the president of the Memphis and Shelby County Crime Commission, Bill Gibbons, says about 500 juveniles are expected to be charged this year with all sorts of violent crimes. And leaders say this forum will focus on strategies to make communities safer and help juveniles all across the country.
On the other hand, I think that some can also be turned around and moved in the right direction before it's too late if we as a community are willing to put the resources into providing intensive supervision and treatment for those individuals.
So the forum is going to be held this Saturday, January 7th from 10:30 in the morning till noon at New Salem Baptist Church. The address is there on your screen. Every day, firefighters answer the call to save lives from burning buildings, but the danger goes beyond the flames. The crews are often exposed to deadly carcinogens that can cause cancer. John Pope is the president of the Mississippi Fire Chiefs Association. He says departments everywhere are making sure firefighters know and practice the proper safety procedures.
Whether it is, decontaminating ourselves after we get back to the station, not bringing exposed items back into the common areas of the fire station, not bringing them inside living quarters or in the common areas or meeting areas, leaving gear and equipment in the engine bays.
Chief Pope says you can help your local firefighters by giving them the nearest station to call and ask them directly.
When an emergency happens,
the Mayo Clinic says a sudden cardiac arrest is the leading cause of death in young athletes. A senior at Houston High School created a club almost a year ago, wanting to make sure her classmates were prepared to save a life, and we've learned that mentality runs in her family. Bria Bolden has more on that.
When an emergency happens, there's no time to waste, especially when a life
1, 2, 3
is on the line.
I feel like after they learn the proper use for CPR and AEDs, they just feel so more enlightened and they feel better and more safe in their school environment.
Houston High School senior Eden Johnson is president of the Houston Hearts Club, a CPR and AED nationally certified group. The club's chapter is certified through Project Adam, an organization created after a 17-year-old Wisconsin student athlete suffered sudden cardiac arrest, collapsed, and died while playing basketball. Houston's chapter, Lawson's Legacy, is named in memory of Lawson Wary, a graduate of Christian Brothers High School and student athlete. He died in 2019 after his heart suddenly stopped.
I would say for schools, it's very important because the normal age for sudden cardiac arrest to occur to someone would be around the age of 15. And that can seem very shocking to people, but that could be your classmate. I mean, that could be your friend. And I really think that it would be important is if something were to happen, you want to be able to save their life and help them.
Saving lives runs in the family for Eden. Her father, Dr. Jason Johnson, is the Associate Chief of Pediatric Cardiology at Le Bonheur Children's Hospital and the University of Tennessee Health Science Center.
The most likely place this could occur is in the school systems, specifically during sporting events. And so it's very important to have all the schools in the area to have appropriate CPR training, AED use, and then an appropriate response team like Project Adam.
4, 5, 6.
Every parent wants to see their child outshine them. I just had no idea what would happen her senior year of high school.
Since starting Houston Hearts Club almost a year ago, Eden and other students have trained nearly every school within the Germantown Municipal School District. She hopes to continue teaching others to save lives within the district and beyond.
My whole big goal out of all of this is to really spread the mission of Project Adam and make sure people know what sudden cardiac arrest is and how important CPR and AED use are.
All right, that was Bria Bolden reporting. Houston High School is the first student-led team, second high school in West Tennessee to be a heart-safe school with multiple AEDs on campus. Eden and her team of students plan to certify 2 more schools within the Germantown Municipal School District in February. They also recently went to Christian Brothers High School to train their staff. And while the cost of a used car is finally coming down, people can still cash in on their pre-owned ride as prices are well above where they were just a year ago. In this Watching Your Wallet report, consumer investigator Rachel DePompa shares what you should know if you're looking to sell sometime soon.
The average price of a used vehicle has fallen for 4 straight months, according to automotive research firm Edmunds. But we're still far from having relatable prices. If you are looking to sell your vehicle, Cherry Dale, a financial coach with the Virginia Credit Union, says it's all about your goals.
Number one, are you trying to sell it quickly? Or are you trying to get the most amount of money out of your sale? You can do both, but it can be a tricky process.
Dale says be realistic about your car's condition. We drive them a lot and we may be used to how they look inside, but your vehicle's actual condition might mean it doesn't quite match that Blue Book suggested price. So Dale says if you are trying to sell quickly, go in at a lower price. If you are not in a hurry, price it higher. And she says going to a dealer to sell has its advantages.
You might not get the best price, but it's quick. They can help with the paperwork, and it's relatively an easy process.
If you sell your vehicle privately, be safe and make sure you think about where you are meeting a person or if you are inviting them to your house to see the vehicle. Have someone else with you. And if you're receiving a lot of money for your vehicle in that sale, have the buyer get a cashier's check from a financial institution or credit union just to make sure that check is legitimate. With this, Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
I know. Okay, so Amazon planned to lay off more than 18,000 workers. The CEO says several units will be affected, including Amazon stores, human resources. The CEO, Andy Jassy, said that in November, job cuts would continue into 2023. So Amazon and other tech firms significantly ramped up hiring over the past couple of years as the pandemic shifted consumers towards e-commerce. Now those companies are laying off thousands of workers, and economic conditions are expected to worsen all across the country. CVS and Walgreens have agreed to sell an abortion pill in their pharmacies where it is legal under state law. The drug is called mifepristone. I think I'm saying that right. It's the first of two drugs administered in a medical abortion regimen. The new FDA regulations, women will need a prescription, but the number of pharmacies can offer the drug will be available as long as they follow rules by the FDA. Frequent use of social media could be a brain changer for teens, according to the study by the neuroscientists at the University of North Carolina. Teens who check media platforms often during the day more likely to be sensitive to general social rewards and punishments. The study was conducted with students 12, 13 years old when research began. Over a 3-year period, the kids reported their social media behavior underwent imaging of their brains, and those who checked social media more often showed general neutral sensitivity in parts of the brain. Those who checked social media less showed less sensitivity.
Scored the Hornets 41-24 in the first.
In Charlotte
drops it off for Bain. Aldama flashing to the post and finishing.
Couldn't get it initially. Desmond Bain had to.
That's going to be key the rest of the night with our ability to get on runs like this opportunity here for the Grizzlies. They have 5 fast break points already off of rebounds to a team that's 4th in the league with 13 a game.
Meanwhile, I'm not sure I believe what I just saw from John Morant. Well, it was an errant pass. Nancy Aldama got himself caught in the air, and now it's just throw the ball anywhere. Morant's able to just track it down. NBA career.
Hey, it's a parade inside my city. I think we're starting to find that groove just on both ends of the floor, really prioritizing defense. And, we know that fuels our offense, and that'll come. So, I think that we're starting to hit that stride, and it's a perfect time to do so.
Grizzlies back in action. The second night of a back-to-back tonight against Orlando in Orlando. Tip-off set for 6 o'clock. Southwest Airlines starting the new year with more problems from last year. The airline now offering new incentives to the tens of thousands of people affected by last week's travel disruptions. They say it's going to take a long time to reunite owners with their lost luggage. Karen Kafez.
New year, same issues? Southwest Airlines is dealing with several lingering concerns following the holiday travel meltdown that left thousands of people and their luggage stranded all over the country.
You want to be angry, but there's nothing you can do, and you're at their mercy.
Toya Martin says she's still waiting for Southwest to return all her items. As the airline said in an internal memo, many bags are still in limbo and will require several more days to reunite passengers with their lost items. Southwest is aiming to make amends for last week's cancellations that disrupted countless holiday plans. The airline now offering 25,000 frequent flyer bonus points worth about $300 in addition to reimbursements and refunds.
I think we're going to end up fixing this going forward.
The offer and the luggage update come as the airline faces a growing list of serious matters to tackle in 2023, including multiple investigations, heightened scrutiny from investors, and at least one lawsuit over its cancellation of nearly 16,000 flights at a peak holiday travel time. That travel chaos has some loyal customers questioning their trust in the airline.
I don't think I will ever use Southwest, and I love Southwest. I love Southwest, but this has been a nightmare.
And while Southwest appears to have recovered from those massive disruptions, some of its workers say the airline should focus on repairing the back-end infrastructure that contributed to the problems in the first place.
Definitely going to be pressing the company very hard on making sure things get fixed.
Karen Kafa reporting there. If you need to get money back from Southwest, head to our website for a link to the company's travel disruption page. You can enter your confirmation number and name and request a refund from the airline. Speaking of airlines, Delta Airlines launching a new nonstop service from Memphis International to Boston. The first flight will take off May 8th. Tickets are on sale right now. Flight will leave Memphis International 7 o'clock in the morning, arrive at Boston Logan around 11:15. Boston flight brings Delta's nonstop service to 7 different destinations from Memphis. All right, let's talk about those New Year's resolutions once again. You know, this week we've been talking about it all week long here. People looking at New Year's resolutions, thinking about some ones that they'd like to do, or they're perhaps looking for some new ones. Well, many people are talking about exercise in the new year, getting in your daily 10,000 steps. One way to start. Health leaders say, though, that's a great way to start, but there's some new research that says it's not only the quantity of steps, but the quality that matters. Take a look. 10,000 steps, just about 5 miles. It's a threshold that researchers say lowers the risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and dementia. A new study shows those who move at a faster pace, about 80 to 100 steps a minute, have more health benefits. In 2 recent papers, the researchers followed 78,000 people in the UK and found brisk walkers had a 35% lower risk of dying, a 30% lower risk of dementia, and a 25% lower risk of heart disease or cancer, suggesting the pace may be the key.
A slightly brisker pace, maybe even to the point where, you feel it, you're breathing a little bit heavier, might be better for you.
Yale researcher and author Perry Wilson was not involved in this new study, but he says there are important implications. First, he advises his patients to get up and get moving as much as they can.
I don't want people to be discouraged looking at 10,000 and saying, oh my gosh, if I can't hit that, I shouldn't even try. Because really the data suggests that any movement, any getting up and moving around is going to reduce your risk in the long term.
Dr. Wilson also suggests people try to get their steps in clusters. Instead of a slow walk around the office throughout the day, build in time to take a 15 or 30-minute walk at lunch. Science says your heart and your head will thank you for it. And Dr. Wilson recommends using social media to track your steps and those of family and friends. Sometimes a little friendly competition can be an incentive. Dr. Wilson also says for those of us who want to know if there are additional benefits if you go over 10,000 steps, there's no published studies due to the small number of people that consistently go over 10,000 steps each and every day. Okay, the Jerry Lee Lewis Ranch is on the market. The property on Malone Road in Nesbit, Mississippi belonged to the late rock and roll legend. According to the website, the right buyer will get 30 acres, a lake, 2 ponds, a piano-shaped pool, outbuildings, and of course, Jerry Lee's home. You can take a sneak peek at the property and inside the main house. Just click the link on our website, actionnews5.com. Okay, Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. There are 2 articles posted right now on commercialappeal.com, and they talk about 2 very important things and events that have happened over the course of the last week or so ago. One of which focuses on MLGW and the Memphis infrastructure with regards to the winter storm. The other one focuses on TVA and the CEO saying it failed with these rolling blackouts when we had horrible weather over the last week to 10 days. Let's bring in the author of both of these articles, Sam Hardiman with the Commercial Appeal. Sam, Happy New Year to you. Appreciate both of these articles, Sam. They're so relevant right now, and certainly it's, again, I want to make mention that it's available on commercialappeal.com. Did anything surprise you when you were working on both of these stories?
What surprised me, Andrew, is the first story that we're talking about today, which is about the status of MLG&W's infrastructure. This is the 3rd year in a row the Commercial Appeal has published a similar story, which is just showing that in these past 3 years, as Memphis has struggled with bad weather, infrastructure has been unreliable. And that sort of history repeating itself over and over, as I have a friend here seeking attention, is very surprising in a way, because you don't expect things to happen just like that.
Your friend's cute, I gotta say, Sam. I appreciate your friend there. But you know, what's interesting about that MLGW article is I got the impression when reading it, Sam, is that I felt like they kept talking, hey, there's improvements, there's help on the way, essentially. But you know, I think people in Memphis or MLGW customers might be skeptical about that until they see a severe weather event or a Mother Nature event come and go with little to no interruption in service, right?
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there, right? The mayor and MLG&W CEO Doug McGowan are both quoted in the piece talking about the MLG&W Way Forward plan, which is a $1.2 billion infrastructure package that's supposed to really fix up the electrical grid and the water distribution system. And a significant amount of that money has already been spent, MLG&W says. However, as McGowan notes in the article, and we quote him as saying, he said he would be a fool to forecast that the infrastructure couldn't have issues again in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years. And what we're really writing about here and what we're talking about this morning are generational issues. A infrastructure grid, electrical grid, water distribution system does not become aged overnight. It happens over decades. And so right now, Memphis and the sort of frustration that I think a lot of Memphians feel, a lot of MLG&W customers feel, in which their holidays were wholly disrupted in a lot of ways by shoddy infrastructure and an unreliable grid in some ways. That frustration in the short term has been baked into the cake over decades. And so people are right to be skeptical.
I also want to point our viewers to the fact that it is posted. They can read it for themselves on commercialappeal.com. The other article, Sam, that you wrote about was from the TVA, the CEO, talking about the rolling blackouts and taking responsibility, how it failed, that sort of thing. It's interesting because what I found interesting was that these rolling blackouts occurred, like a month after MLGW signed their contract, their 5-year contract. Was it a month? Was it even more than that? I mean, it seemed like
it wasn't. MLGW has not signed anything new. They have stayed on a current contract.
Okay.
And so this is just happening a month after MLG&W, maybe even less than a month, about 3 weeks. After MLG&W, their board voted not to sign a long-term generational contract with TVA and commit to TVA for 40 plus years, most likely. That's the key kind of interesting component there. MLG&W is on an evergreen contract that has a 5-year notice period. So at any point, MLG&W can say in 5 years, we don't want to be a TVA customer anymore. It just auto renews every year at this point.
Yeah, I just found it curious, the timing, because it was almost like settled. At least to me, I thought it was already signed, but it was almost settled that everyone said, okay, here's the deal, we're going with TVA, and then suddenly, for the first time in nearly its 90-year history, they have this blackout or rolling blackouts that they've asked all the utilities that they serve, power to. I just thought that was horrible timing.
It is horrible timing, but imagine if the timing had been this summer. And MLG&W was still having bidders on its power supply. The bidding had not closed. And then MLG&W is rating TVA is very reliable. And then there are blackouts. So I think for TVA, the timing could have been worse. At the same time, because Memphis hasn't signed anything, and it just remains on this evergreen rolling contract, the question is still open. And that's a really sort of essential thing to keep in mind as we go forward. It's not clear whether or not that's going to revive, and what's happened these past couple of weeks is going to revive the debate over whether Memphis should leave. But all of the gating criteria, all the things, which is this Memphis contract that's evergreen and can be, essentially a 5-year notice and it's up. That really puts a lot of pressure on TVA. And that's why the vote going against them in mid-December and Memphis not wanting to sign the generational deal was such a big deal for them. Because if Memphis had signed it and the city council had signed off on it, which was a very unlikely thing, Memphis would be in the same situation that Nashville is in, where Nashville can talk about how grumpy they are with TVA. Nashville leaders can do that. But they signed a 20-year deal, the rolling perpetual agreement with TVA. It would take a generation to get out of it. Memphis is not in the same situation.
That is interesting, and that leaves the door open for, I guess, more debate down the line. I also thought it was interesting that, the CEO said something that they're investigating, paraphrasing now, but investigating what exactly caused this whole diction to make sure that they were rolling blackouts. I guess there's no timetable on when they are supposed to have that situated, right? I mean, they just said, hey, we're looking into it.
Yeah, that's essentially it. And TVA, said it a little more formally last week as well. But no, we don't know yet. I would expect sometime in the first half of the year, we have some analysis of this. And it's a really important question because for all of Tennessee and parts of 6 other states, this is the electric grid. And it's really, worrisome when the election provider has to mandate rolling blackouts. And the electric provider has said it was prepared for such extreme events. And as Jeff Lash has quoted in the story, the preparation didn't work. And so you really need to understand, because these events are going to happen again. It's going to be very cold in Nashville and Memphis and Knoxville all at the same time. It's going to happen. It's maybe rare, but it will happen again. And it's going to be very warm in those places this summer, most likely all at the same time. And so that sort of thing is when your peak electric demand can't be met and your generation falls, which is what happened with TVA, and you're trying to import electricity, you could be in this situation again. So you really do need to study.
It really is interesting, and it's something that is posted on commercialappeal.com. And Sam, before I let you go, I just want to commend you on writing 2 stories that are so relevant to the entire population. It doesn't matter where you live. If you are an MLGW customer, you are very interested in what's happening here. And these questions are something that everybody that has been asking over the last week, 2 weeks, 10 days, what have you, since all this stuff happened. And there's going to be these questions continuing throughout 2023, I would assume. I'll give you the last word here before we let you go.
Well, Andrew, it's great to see you. Happy New Year. And the reason I wanted to talk about these stories today is because the public needs to be talking about infrastructure, not just when it fails. And because, when these events happen, we see an intense spike in interest, and we really care about the electric grid, about the water system, and then everything gets back to function. And then you don't have more serious conversations about it, and the public is less interested. And I think one of the ways for this thing to change is for people to be more aware and more engaged on the issues, and that way their infrastructure, which is what they pay for, all of us pay for every month, is accountable to them.
He is Sam Hardiman with the Commercial Appeal, the City Beat writer. And with Sam, we appreciate all the hard work. Thanks very much. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Zoe says Happy New Year to you.
A family heartbroken and desperate for answers after a life-altering surgery for their 7-month-old baby was put on hold. The reason why: their insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee, no longer accepted at Methodist Le Bonheur healthcare facilities. Action News 5's Parker King has more on that.
7-month-old Nathan Hart has been in Le Bonheur Children's Hospital since December 19th, diagnosed with bacterial meningitis. Now, he He needs bilateral cochlear implant surgery to save his hearing.
If he doesn't get it soon, he will be deaf for the rest of his life.
Nathan's parents, Melanie and Tyler, said the surgery was set for Tuesday morning, but that scheduling was made last week when Blue Cross Blue Shield was still accepted at Le Bonheur.
They come and told us Tuesday morning, like, all right, we're gonna get him set and everything. We'll let you know a time closer to when he's about to go. And then ENT come in and she said, I've done all I can. She said, but due to insurance, we can't do the surgery.
The Harts say doctors told them Nathan needed the surgery within 48 hours, a window now closing. The parents said they offered to pay out of pocket through a payment plan, but were not permitted to do so by the hospital because of the high cost of the operation.
$60-something thousand per year. They want to make sure it gets paid. So they want to get insurance involved as much as possible.
As a children's hospital, I feel they should do right by the child. I mean,
yeah, it's not their fault.
I mean, yeah,
it's our fault.
In the Memphis area, the Harts tell us only Le Bonheur can perform this surgery. With such a limited time, driving to another state for care is not an option.
even the doctor said, she said, I'm ashamed of the situation right now. She said, I'm ashamed to be a part of it. Why should he have to suffer without hearing when it's completely preventable and he can get a surgery to fix it?
All right, we got this this statement from Le Bonheur Children's Hospital. We empathize with the patients and the unnecessary confusion and stress they're going through due to the decision by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee not to renew the contract. Can't speak to these specific cases, but in situations like these, we remain committed to helping any child and family who needs us, just as we've done for the last 70 years. And we're told by Blue Cross that customers are encouraged to call the support number on the back of their ID card for help on searching for alternative care. As of now, there's been no indication when a new contract between Blue Cross Blue Shield and Methodist will be made. All right, let's get another check of our forecast with meteorologist Brittany Bryant.
Good morning. We have full sunshine right now with that look in Midtown Memphis. We'll keep it nice and sunny today. That will help temperatures climb out of the 40s eventually by noon at 50 degrees, 54 at 3 o'clock, and then down to the upper 40s by 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. 54 degrees is our high temperature today, and average is 51, so we're not too far off from where we should be. And then a low temperature tonight around 32, also pretty close to normal for us to get to that freezing mark. So we'll feel chilly even late tonight, but we keep it dry today and tomorrow. If you have any Friday plans, you won't have to deal with any rain. But Saturday, a 40% chance of rain and a few showers possible on Sunday too. And then after that, we'll clear everything out. So let's look at timing for that rain. Here's First Alert Futurecast Saturday at 8 a.m. Some light rain over towards Memphis, going into Brownsville, eastern Arkansas, seeing a few showers. And then rain is on and off as we go through the morning and into the early afternoon. This is noon here on First Alert Futurecast. Some spotty rain possible, but it looks like most of this will be coming to an end during the afternoon, at least in the Memphis area. But by 6 o'clock, we have more rain that develops over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. And keep an eye on that spot because that's where we could see some heavy rain by 10 or 11 o'clock at night Saturday. We're seeing the reds and the oranges, Corinth going down into Tupelo, Ashland, Ripley. Also spots like Oxford possibly getting a few downpours through that point of the evening. And I can't completely roll out a straight light shower even through early Sunday, then we clear out after that. So rainfall totals will be highest in that area in northeast Mississippi, around a ½ inch from Holly Springs into Alcorn County. And then in Memphis, Wynn, spots like Tunica, probably around a ¼ inch of rain. So this is not going to result in flash flooding, nothing like what we had earlier this week, and also no severe weather with that one. If you want more updates on that rain chance for the weekend, go to our First Alert weather app. You can watch that First Alert Futurecast again, and I just posted a new video on there about that weekend rain. Today and tomorrow, as I mentioned, it's dry. We're in the 50s, 56 degrees on Friday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday. Some spots in North Mississippi will make it to 60 degrees, and then lows in the 40s Saturday night, 50s again on Sunday, although a little bit cooler behind that front moving through, bringing that rain. And then on Monday, we're sunny, high of 56 degrees, upper 50s Tuesday, and then still in the 50s through the end of next week.
Tenants at Riverbend Apartments in West Memphis, Arkansas have more questions than answers after devastating flooding that happened on Tuesday. People who live in that area say they feel like the property owners are giving them a runaround, and they want to know if their rent checks that are due this month still are due, even though they can't live in many of their homes right now. Walter Murphy has more.
Can we live in our apartment? Can we go back in there? Can we stay tonight? I don't know. I just want to know What's next?
Questions being asked by many residents of Riverbend Apartments in West Memphis on Wednesday. Severe storms dumped up to 6 inches of rain on the city Tuesday morning, leaving feet of standing water in homes. You can see in this video obtained by Action News 5 what it looked like inside of one of the apartments.
I can't live in it. I'm not going to live in it.
Residents are now wondering what to do about rent that has to be paid by Thursday. We asked the property manager if there would be a grace period. Her answer was, to be determined.
So they told us that we were going to meet with the owners at 9, but they never showed up. They're just telling us they can take it one day at a time.
The American Red Cross was at the complex Wednesday surveying damage. In a phone call, a representative told us they are determining which apartments are safe to live in, if any. The next step is to get displaced residents relief money, but that money won't come overnight. And overnight is what people who call Riverbend Apartments home are worried about.
My utilities, they're on. But is it safe to stay in here? We need to know that before 9.
Memphis police are investigating the shooting death of a teen on Christmas Day. The teen's mother identified the victim as 16-year-old Nia Radcliffe. Action News 5's Stephanie Douglas reports and spoke with the teen's mother about what the gun violence has taken from her.
Christmas morning, rather than receiving gifts, 16-year-old Nia Radcliffe's mother says what she received instead was an agonizing phone call about her only child.
She was at Level 3 nightclub at a Christmas party, and someone outside the club opened fire, and she was shot twice.
Robin Radcliffe says her daughter was shot inside the adult nightclub where she wasn't supposed to be. Surveillance video shows the night suspects exchange gunfire between a dark-colored sedan, a white minivan, and other fleeing suspects. Radcliffe wants answers.
Anybody who was out there, just speak to the police. Tell me what type of cars they was in, what they were wearing. What did you hear? What did you see? Just speak.
It's the same message echoed by the Memphis Shelby Crime Commission Wednesday as members work to combat crime, especially among juveniles.
Our community is too quiet. We have got to get our community back involved.
Robin Radcliffe says the senseless gunfire destroyed her own life and robbed the Overton High School student of her future.
I'm robbed of every holiday. I'm robbed of prom. I'm robbed of graduation. I'm robbed of grandchildren. I'm robbed of everything.
Okay, the Women's Foundation for Greater Memphis has a new leader. The WFGM Board of Directors announced this morning that the former Vice President, Shantae Avant, will be the new president and CEO. In a statement, they say Shantae possesses the qualifications and expertise to grow the Women's Foundation into an even greater, more successful organization to create a lasting impact in the Memphis community. Mississippi Department of Health says the amount of flu cases is going down after several weeks of high numbers. The Department of Health says there were over 13,000 flu cases during the Thanksgiving weekend. Last week, that number dropped to over 9,000, and so that is good news there.
We're seeing a lot of return patients where they have gotten secondary infections, whether it be as severe as pneumonia or just your typical upper respiratory infection. We're seeing a lot higher fevers. The fevers lasting for several more days.
Doctors say case numbers could rise in the next 2 weeks once students return to school. Medical professionals recommend you get vaccinated even if you've already had the flu in the last few weeks. Rolling blackouts, water outages, a boil advisory, all problems during December's winter blast that were addressed by the top leaders over at MLGW. Action News 5's Cindy Gray breaks down what they say went wrong and plans for improvement. Take a look.
Executing a rolling blackout plan would have been challenging in the most ideal conditions with plenty of warning, but that was not the case as we went through this a week ago.
MLGW initiated rolling blackouts for the first time in its 89-year history under orders from the TVA. Now, company president and CEO Doug McGowan says they're working to ensure better communication from them and the TVA.
From an infrastructure perspective, we're going to take a look at our Way Forward plan, which is our 5-year infrastructure investment plan. Sometimes these events will highlight a gap in your plan that you didn't know existed.
McGowan says there were two main issues during the Arctic blast. First, the company had to implement more rolling blackouts than expected. Second, when it was time to restore power, McGowan says 30% of the time substation circuit breakers did not operate properly, forcing crews to identify which circuit breakers didn't operate and then manually reset them. But McGowan says there was some good news.
We were able to keep pressure at more houses and avoid losing water at more houses than we did in 2021. So you won't feel that on a day-to-day basis. And if it was your water that was out, that does little to assuage your concerns, except that those continued investments we're making will eventually decrease the number of people that are impacted by that cold weather.
He also expressed gratitude for those who worked nonstop to restore power and water.
I have not seen the overtime bill, and quite frankly, every cent that we pay for overtime is going to be worth it if we can get one more customer on more quickly or restore water to somebody more quickly.
The funeral of former Pope Benedict XVI taking place today at Vatican City. Those in attendance pray to the Rosary at Benedict's coffin there left at St. Peter's Basilica. Pope Benedict, the first pontiff in almost 600 years to resign his position. He passed away New Year's Eve at 95 years old, was very ecumenical to the Orthodox Church. When it comes to keeping your credit safe, two of the top choices are credit monitoring service and freezing your credit. Rachel DePompa has more on that.
There's so much information circulating out there about each of us. Some of it has been stolen from data breaches and is on the dark web. Other times we've given out our own information willingly. It's just more ways the bad guys have to reach you. Experts say credit monitoring is a great service. It alerts you if any new account is opened. But James Lee, the COO of the Identity Theft Resource Center, says it should be one of many tools you employ. He says a credit freeze is something you should really consider.
Still, the best protection, the most bulletproof thing we have is a credit freeze, because that's the only thing that can stop a new account from being opened in your name.
He says credit monitoring has a place and you should never turn it down if it's offered for free. But he warns it also gives you a false sense of security because credit monitoring does not stop the crime from happening. It just lets you know to look. Lee says a credit freeze keeps new accounts from being opened in your name. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Split the screen here on the digital desk. I want to show you a tweet that came in just a few minutes ago from the Buffalo Bills official Twitter page here. Per physicians caring for Damar Hamlin at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, Damar has shown remarkable improvement over the past 24 hours. While he's still critically ill, he has demonstrated that he appears to be neurologically intact. Great news there. His lungs continue to heal and he is making steady progress. We are grateful for the love and support that we have received. Again, there's an update there on Damar Hamlin. The Buffalo Bills football player has suffered cardiac arrest on the field during Monday Night Football's game versus the Bengals, had to be revived twice on the football field.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 digital desk. A lot of you starting off a new year, and one thing that I think is a pretty interesting topic that is very important to talk about is the importance of having a primary care physician. So I want to bring in now nurse practitioner Tondra Armour with Methodist Medical Group. Tondra, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to have you on this morning to talk to you a little bit more about this. I will tell you, I am one of those people that's guilty that over several years, it seemed like when I needed to go to the doctor, I would just go to an urgent care. I would see just one doctor. Next time I'd go, I see a different doctor. And it wasn't until I moved back here to Memphis that I finally established a primary care physician. Can we talk about why it's so important to be able to have that doctor in your corner?
Yes, so having a primary care physician is important because we provide basic health care from mind to body, and we also help to make sure that we take care of we like to offer preventative services. We do quite a few things to care for our patients, but basically it's that general health and making sure we're staying on top of the things that's necessary and trying to capture anything before it even happens or catch it early.
And how important is it to have that doctor that you're seeing consistently? Because, I mean, obviously, they know more about your history. They know what you've been through. Talk about maybe being able to establish that primary care physician and just why it's so important to have a primary care physician working with your health.
Yes. So yes, we recommend that you see a primary care physician at least once a year to get your physical or your annual exam. During that exam, that's when we check for any type of, we do lab work to make sure we're catching any type of illnesses or to make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to be working. General things like checking your kidney function, liver function. We may do STD checks if you're looking for that and wanting to know your status on that. We can offer x-rays and EKGs in certain places so that we're looking at your heart and your lungs. We do your screening at that particular time. So are you up to date with your mammogram? Are you up to date with your pap smear? Are you up to date with your prostate levels? We can screen for diabetes. So it's very important to know your status and to know your baseline and go from there. And then if you do have chronic diseases such as hypertension or diabetes or high cholesterol, it's very important that you're meeting with your primary care physician or provider, because we also follow that too. We want to make sure that you're taking your medications the way they need to be, make sure the medications are working like they need to be. And if you need to go to a specialist, we can even navigate that and make sure we direct you to the right specialist. And we also interact with the specialist to make sure we know what's going on with the specialist and the specialist knows what's going on with us as well.
So important. And like you said, that preventative care, if you don't know there's something going on, then how do you treat that before it gets worse? So obviously it's so important to be able to get ahead of something before it turns into something even worse, where you're dealing with something even more serious. Can you maybe give some advice for someone that's maybe watching today? They're saying, you know, I don't have a primary care physician. I've just kind of hopped around from urgent cares. Is there any advice that you would give when it comes to maybe trying to find the right one for you?
Yes, so oftentimes we get a lot of our patients by referrals as family members that say, hey, I love my doctor, I love who I go to, and they often tell their friends and family about the provider that they're seeing. You can also check with your insurance company to see what providers are in your network and see who may be close to you or in your area. You can also just call and see who's in that area. Methodist has a website, and you can go on our website and look at all the primary care providers. We have about 60 locations in the Mid-South. And so you can go on the Methodist website and you can look at all the different providers that we have and all the different locations, and you can see what's the best fit for you. But I definitely recommend that you ask your family and friends, who do they have as a provider? Do they trust their provider? Are they able to get appointments with their providers? How does the provider provide excellent care for them? So it's definitely important to have someone who has been to that provider, that knows they're a great provider. But like I said, if you haven't been to a primary care doctor and you're looking for one, go on the website for Methodist and you can check and see where the providers are. You can call your insurance companies and ask about providers that are in your network, because that's important as well.
Absolutely. And you were saying asking family members and friends. That's actually how I ended up at my primary care physician. My dad started seeing this doctor, then my mom, and now me. So, and of course, we've been happy with that. So it's good to be able to talk to your friends and family, because they can let you know what they've experienced going to that doctor. You know, this is a new year, though. We're into 2023. A lot of people making those resolutions, many of those focusing on health, the new year, the new you, and health is usually one of those main focuses for a lot of people. So when is the right time for someone to schedule an appointment with a primary care physician? Is it right now at the beginning of the year?
Yes, get in there and see your primary care doctor. If you haven't seen a doctor at all, haven't had a physical or annual exam, I definitely recommend that you get started with your physical annual exam to get established with that doctor, so you know your baseline for the year. You know what you're dealing with, and you know what your goal is, or what your goal is, so you know what you need to work towards. So it's very important to get in as soon as possible. If you've already have a doctor that's established and you've already had an annual exam, we recommend you do that once a year, about the same time every year, depending on your insurance. So definitely, if you can get in there ASAP, get in there as soon as you can to get your physical and get your annual exam, so you know your baseline.
All right, Tondra, we talked about a lot of things. Anything you think we missed on that you want to make sure we get out there to the people?
Well, once again, I want to tell people that your primary care doctor offers a lot of different things. We want to make sure that you're up to date on your vaccinations. So this starts in childhood. It doesn't just start in adulthood. So you can get a pediatrician that's considered a primary care doctor for children, and they look at your vaccinations to make sure you're up to date on that. In adulthood, you can transfer or you upgrade from a pediatrician to your primary care doctor. And once again, we're looking at vaccinations. Are you up to date on your flu vaccine? Are you up to date with shingles vaccine, pneumonia vaccine? If you have any chronic conditions, we want to know, are you taking care of yourself? Are you taking your medications like you're supposed to? Are the medications working for you? And if you have any screenings that needs to be done, because primary prevention is most important. So if we can prevent you from becoming a diabetic or prevent you from going into full-blown hypertension, we want to do that. So see us sooner than later so that we can prevent any type of diseases as much as possible. But if not, just so we can do a general check, just like you go and you get your car checked out, we do the same for our patients. So make an appointment soon and come see us.
All right. Well, Tondra Armour, nurse practitioner for Methodist Medical Group. We appreciate your time. So much information just packed with it. And you have a great one, all right?
Thank you. You have a blessed day, too.
It is time for a fun segment. How about knowing more about dating with confidence? I mean, I think we could all probably use some advice when it comes to this topic. So joining me now is love coach and also psychotherapist Hillary Silver. Hillary, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Thank you. How are you?
I am doing really good. I've been looking forward to this interview because I think a lot of people can benefit from this. So I guess the first thing I really want to dive into is how do you just find and attract the right people? Because a lot of times I think people are thinking, why am I a magnet for people that aren't going to treat me right? So what advice do you have?
Well, it always starts with, how can you attract the right person if you don't even know who that is? And I find that a lot of people aren't really clear what it is that they're looking for in a partner. So when they're dating, they are attracting the wrong kinds. And to start recognizing who is the right person for you, you have to actually know yourself really well and to get really clear. What's important to me in a partner? What do I value? What are the traits and the characteristics in somebody that I have to have? That's where it starts first. And so your values, and I say, what do you admire and require? So what do you admire in somebody? What do you like to be around? And what are your requirements? And those are really criteria that you have to get clear on.
You know, one thing I'm wondering, in this day and age, does it seem like most people are relying on dating apps to meet people? Are you seeing that more and more, obviously?
Oh, yeah. And it's a great tool as long as you know how to use it, really. You have to be smart.
What kind of tips do you have for dating apps? Are there any kind of like go-tos that you say, this is going to help you out here?
Well, they're all different and they all have a different kind of personality, I would say. But they all do have one thing in common, which is the profile. And I think the profile is really important. A lot of people kind of do this casting a wide net and they think that that's better. They want to attract as many as possible. And I always tell my clients, you want to be really specific about who you are and what you're looking for, because being narrow is way better. When you appeal to everyone, you end up appealing to no one. So, I mean, you don't want people knocking on your door who aren't a good fit for you. So you might as well just be really narrow and really clear what you're looking for.
That's really good advice, because I think a lot of times when people get on those sites, they do cast a wide net. I'm lucky I actually did meet my boyfriend on a dating app, and it's been really great. But yeah, obviously I want to get back, and National Singles Day is coming up in September, and so we want to get back to those that are still trying to find that person. What do you think is the #1 thing that is causing relationships not to move past maybe the first few dates?
Well, sometimes it's obvious, right? You'll meet somebody and there's just no chemistry, or it's just clearly not a match. So that's kind of obvious. So I won't even really talk about that. What I call the one date wonder is when you go on a first date with somebody and it seems great. You're having fun. It feels like there's a connection. And then you go home and you're like, oh my God, that was the best date ever. And then you never hear from the person again, leaving you wondering what you did wrong or what did you say. That's the one date wonder. And the way I explain this, or maybe the 2-date or the 3-date wonder, is that sometimes it seems on the outside that you're smart and successful and accomplished and all these wonderful things, and you are. But if there's a disconnect between how you really feel about yourself on the inside, you are oozing or leaking an energy that I call lack. It's a lack energy. And this happens with the best and the brightest among all of us and for all of us. And that is that you go into this date with somebody wanting them to like you, wanting them to pick you, wanting them to approve of you. And that comes from a place of lack, and it'll kill any vibe. And so that's why the majority of the work that I do with my clients in the Ready for Love program is all about that inner work, because how you're presenting yourself, your presence is so important. It's not really what you're saying, it's how you're saying it and how you're being on these dates. Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. And so when you're working with people and they've maybe gone on a few dates, are there things that are red flags that maybe you should look for to say, hey, maybe I need to take a step back, like someone maybe just coming on so strong, so fast? I mean, what are the red flags that you usually say, watch out for this?
Well, that's a good one that you just said. When somebody's coming on too strong, too fast, you have to wonder, are they interested in me? Or do they just want someone? Because that doesn't really feel genuine or authentic, right? Red flags, there's so many of them for men and for women. And I just always tell everyone, if it doesn't feel right, it's not right. And it doesn't matter if there's evidence or anything like that. If it doesn't feel right, it just doesn't feel right. And you just have to trust your intuition.
Trust your gut. It usually does not lie to you. I know that there's one that I think this topic's going to be interesting, but maybe 3 blind spots where you could be sabotaging your chance at love. What are those? Because people probably have no idea about this, obviously.
Yeah, I love talking about blind spots. And a blind spot obviously is when you can't see something that's a barrier or an obstacle or a problem, so you can't avoid it and you probably keep doing it. And they are really the most counterintuitive, because the first one that I always talk about is fear of intimacy. We want love, we want connection, we want closeness more than anything, but intimacy is really scary, letting someone in to your inner world and to see who you really are. And we put ourselves at risk. Being vulnerable means that we are opening ourselves up to being hurt. And so a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment, being judged, making a mistake, betrayal, all of that. So a fear of intimacy is there for all of us, because we've all been hurt along the way in our lives. And so to open ourselves up and to really let someone in is really, really challenging and scary. And it's a blind spot because people don't realize that it's there. So there's a lot of sabotage that can happen because of that. And then my other favorite blind spot that I love to talk about is a mindset block. Think about it, like an athlete doesn't sign up for the Olympics thinking of all the reasons why they won't win. And so many people are dating thinking things like all the good guys are taken, or women only want me for my money, or, things like that. There's so many of them. And the truth is you get what you expect. And so when you're focusing on what you don't want, or you're thinking these things that are negative that are going to happen to you, that is what will happen. So it's just really important to focus on what it is that you want and recognize any of these like negative beliefs or cynicism that you might have based on past experiences and fear.
I've heard one just where people go in and they're just like, man, I was surprised that you even wanted to go on a date with me. And in a sense, that's almost kind of one of these sabotages where you're going in already putting the ball in their court that maybe they're getting the short end of the deal. I mean, do you agree with me on that?
Oh, yeah, that's not sexy. Who wants to go out with somebody who doesn't have confidence in themselves or doesn't feel deserving or worthy of being picked, so to speak? So it's really important to know your worth, know your value, feel good about that, and expect the best. Knowing that your person is out there and focusing on that and that alone, you will attract them wherever you go.
So everybody wants to make that connection. They want to find their person. What are some dating ideas to maybe help build a strong connection?
Well, so I love telling my clients to go on dates that are active because it's so much more fun and enjoyable and authentic, actually, to do things together where you're showing who you are rather than just telling who you are. My first date with my husband was rock climbing, and I wouldn't tell everybody to do that because you're out in the woods and you don't know what you're doing. You know, if you don't know what you're doing when you're rock climbing, that can be dangerous. But things like going to a concert where you're just having fun and you're not being forced to just talk. You know, you want to see if you have companionship, if you're playful with each other, and can you be friends? And while you're doing those things like going for a walk or, I don't know, karaoke, if you're so bold to do something like that, there's a lot of playfulness and a lot of flirting that can happen in that. It's less intense. It's just more fun and enjoyable. So dates that are all about showing, not telling, and being active, I think, are really good dates.
I think that's good advice, because a lot of times people are just like, I just don't know, you know, and what's gonna be the best thing and that sort of thing. But is there anything else that you want to hit on that maybe we missed? You know, maybe it's the biggest mistakes people make, or anything that you feel like we didn't cover that you want to hit on before we let you go?
I think that you did a great job asking really important questions. And I think it's just really important that we all take responsibility for being the common denominator in our relationships in our past, and to really look in the mirror, because what we're experiencing in our relationships is a mirror for what's going on inside of us. And a lot of people don't think about it that way, but we're all the common denominator. So it's really important to have a look at how am I creating this? If it's not working the way I want it to, what am I doing? How am I creating this? And always, you know, be willing to look in the mirror. And if it means that you need a coach or a mentor of some kind, get it, because my clients, we have a 92% success rate with my program, because that is a huge piece of what we're doing, is helping people see how they're creating what it is that they don't want instead of creating what they do want. And it's just those blind spots that get in the way.
That is awesome. Well, Hillary, I've had so much fun with this conversation. I've enjoyed it, and you have a great morning, all right?
Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate it.
All right, let's talk about cybersecurity awareness, because that is the month of October. In addition to Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it's also Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And get this stat here. More than 75% of Americans recently shared that they were targeted by an online scam, which can include donation scams, tech support scams, romance scams, cryptocurrency scams, and much, much more. Does that surprise you? It doesn't surprise me, but it's certainly pervasive, it seems, in every part of the country. Let's bring in a cybersecurity expert right now. Jaya Ballou is joining us. And Jaya, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And I understand that the sandwich generation seems to be one of those generations that really has a lot of responsibilities when it comes to this. Sandwich generation, my understanding is that, because I'm a part of it, you have aging parents and you have kids. The kids tend to be skewing a little bit younger. Is that what the sandwich generation is? Let's define it for everybody.
You're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is. And just like you, I'm also part of it. So it's not an easy spot to be in, because you've got this double role where you have to be the primary caregiver, both for your kids, but also make sure your parents are okay. And one area that's often overlooked when we're doing all the other responsibilities is around cybersecurity.
Yeah, one of the most frustrating things for me, especially when my father-in-law lived with us, was that how many phone calls he got from the constant people that, you know, may sound nice over the phone, may sound trusting over the phone, but it was a bunch of garbage, and it's just so frustrating. So what's the best advice for not only managing what older Americans have to deal with when it comes to scams, but also our children too?
Yeah, so, you know, the good news is that both for the older Americans that we need to take care of, as well as those younger kids that we've got as our primary role, they're the same stuff that we have to do for both of them. And I like to kind of couch it into three things. Like, the first thing is prevention, making sure that they have some good cyber hygiene practices ready to go that are enabled by default. And that can be a good antivirus, a good web browser, and a strong VPN that they can use because they want to be connected from anywhere on every device all the time. So that's a good starting point. Majority of threats are blocked. The second thing is just really about detection, being vigilant, watching out for those red flags, knowing when to recognize one of those phone calls is completely illegitimate, that your bank never wants to ask information about your passwords or that kind of stuff by calling you, and especially an unsolicited call asking you for information is not normal. So watching out for those red flags is the second thing, really being vigilant and paying attention to that scam-like behavior. And the third thing, which is really not easy to do when it happens, but you need to kind of prepare it before it happens, is in case you actually do get attacked or do fall initially for the scam, how to stop it quickly, and then also how to get help, whether that means informing police or finding someone in your network that can actually undo the harm that was done. Having that ready before you need it is super important to getting this right.
What about for younger children? By the way, I love that response. That was excellent. Cyber hygiene. That's a term that I want to develop there and just kind of use from now on. And VPN. I feel like VPNs are just so underrated right now. They need to be more prevalent. What about for younger children out there? Because the older Americans, that seems to be, it gets a lot of press about ways to protect older Americans, but sometimes our children are left vulnerable on screens and devices. What are some good practices for some of the parents out there?
So I'm a mom of 3, and I've got to tell you that in some cases, I find my kids way more savvy, even though I was hacking from the age of 9 and I feel like I really know what the internet is. I find them super savvy on some of these social media platforms, and they've already figured out, how to have hacks for games. They're doing all this stuff. And I feel like the best way to educate them is not to prohibit them from doing something. And especially as parents who may be less tech savvy than their kids these days, the best thing to do is to have that conversation about what is safe, what is acceptable, how to spot something that, is doing something that's actually evil. And also we need to worry more about our kids about things like cyberbullying. Are they actually having a good time on some of these social media platforms that they're on? Or when they're exchanging information while they're playing Fortnite or whatever, that information is not something that's actually confidential. When they're being requested to send images, how they actually protect their profiles on any of these platforms, just making sure it's invite only, and that the photos that my daughter, for example, is uploading, that they're not just being spread out. I'm trying to take the role of not saying no, because I don't want to find them circumventing my advice, but finding a way to actually have a dialogue and really talk to them and engage and let them understand what the threat is so they make the best decisions they possibly can.
I know you mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but for viewers out there that want to is secure their household as much as possible, virus protection software, that sort of thing, passwords, maybe 2 identification verifications, that sort of thing. Give me give me a list of the best preventable ways so that you're not hacked.
Okay, so we started out with those 3. I love this, by the way. I could do this all day. But we started out with those 3 of a good antivirus. And again, it doesn't matter to me which one you have, as long as it's a solid antivirus. And you can go out there and look at AV Comparatives or any of the other sites to figure out which one fits your price range and your purpose best. Start there. The second one is really, when you go online, a good secure browser. Third one is a VPN for all of your devices, so that when you're using the internet from other Wi-Fi points, that you're still safe. And then, what you mentioned, a lot of platforms that we engage with online already have 2-factor authentication enabled. We as users, though, need to turn it on. There's some user involvement in order to be able to use that benefit that's already there. So I urge everybody on the platforms that you use, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, WhatsApp, etc., Signal, turn on that 2-factor authentication mechanism that's there. If you don't know how to do it, Google that for the platform that you're using. You'll find an easy set of instructions. The other thing about passwords, now, I have to tell you, this is a drama, and it's always been the worst thing ever. People do not like complex passwords because they don't remember them, so they wind up writing it on a sticky note or losing it or whatever. So the best thing is to have a unique password for everything you're using, and then to manage that with a password manager. So the easiest way to do that unique password for every site and then having it slightly complex is to let it go into a password manager, and there's a bunch of good ones out there. Pick one. Make sure you use it, consistently, use it across your different devices, and already that will make a huge amount of difference. There's also like small things that I like to point out, which is really when you are getting links in emails, just don't arbitrarily click. Try to find out where that link is taking you, and then you can better click that by yourself by typing it in if that's a valid and legitimate email. Try to have, for sensitive information, an offline channel, like a phone call that you can make to verify that that's legitimate requests that you're actually getting.
I know you got to wrap up a little bit here, Jaya, but what about social media with our youngsters out there? They're on it a lot. What are best practices for social media?
Well, again, my thing that I do with my kids is to just agree on a certain amount of screen time to monitor usage. And one of the things that I did with my son very early on is that we actually read the terms and conditions of the platform that he was using. And it sounds absolutely horrible and a terrible thing to do with your Sunday afternoon, but it's actually really useful because then they suddenly understand that they're being followed and tracked even when they're not on that social media platform. And all of that off-platform activity about them is used to collect information about all of their browsing behavior. And so when my son found that out, he actually said, you know what, I don't want to do this now. This is not the goal. We want to empower people to embrace online technology and be having some concept of digital freedom when they go online. But again, it begins with the dialogue. Just start the conversation. I think that's a great thing to do in this month of cybersecurity awareness.
What a novel concept, reading the terms and conditions. I love it. Is there anything else we can go to for more information, some of the things that you've said? It's been fantastic. Where can our viewers get that information online?
Well, just start at the Avast.com sandwich generation site. So www.avast.com sandwich generation. And we have a bunch of resources there. There's an online quiz to test your awareness, stuff that you can print out and share with your parents. Just start there. I think a good starting point is, already means you're doing a lot of good effort for the future.
Well, Jaya Ballou is the Avast Chief Information Security Officer, and great tips, great conversation. Thanks so very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I want to show you this. This is the latest cover of the Memphis Magazine January edition there. Look at that pretty color. And vibrant there. The wedding album, Memphis Marriages in Photos. Good stuff there. Let's talk more about what's inside this edition with Chris McCoy, a writer with Memphis Magazine and the Memphis Flyer. Chris, Happy New Year. How you doing?
Happy New Year. I'm doing fine. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you very much. Read the article that you wrote here, this one, about your little trip to the Gulf. You got the best job here doing all these trips all over the place. And wow, the Gulf Coast didn't disappoint, huh?
No, I can't complain. But so a few years ago, back in 2020, before the pandemic, my wife often goes with me on these trips as a photographer, and she has been doing it for years. I've been doing travel writing since, 2006, 2000-ish or so. And so a lot of times she'll go and take pictures. And in early 2020, we were supposed to go to the Gulf Coast for a travel story, and her other job, she couldn't go. She couldn't go to that one because her other job, which is a video and film editor, she had a gig pop up, so she couldn't go. So then the pandemic happens, and we're stuck in the house for 2 years, and we don't get to travel. And the whole time we were like, man, I wish you could have gone on that trip. because right before the pandemic, I wish you could have gone. So the opportunity arose again. And this time, the stars aligned and she was able to go on this trip. And we stayed at the Henderson. We stayed at the Henderson Park Inn in Destin, and it's right next to the Henderson State Park. And Travel and Leisure voted it the most romantic hotel in America, I think back in 2017 or 2018. And so I was like, well, since we're going to do the weddings for our cover story, which made a beautiful cover, let's talk a little bit about how to make a romantic trip between a couple. This seemed like a good, use of our time. So that's what we did. We tried to go and check out a lot of stuff at the beach in Destin and on the Gulf Coast. I tried to figure out if it was romantic or not, if it was a good thing to do with your partner. And in order to do this, we had to figure out what that meant when we said romantic, right? So that's why I called the story A Theory of Romance. We had to figure out what romantic was before we figured out if something was romantic or not. We had to get our definition down. So some of the story is about us trying to figure out, what does romantic mean, really? And the way the story came together is me proposing things and my wife's name is Laura Jean Hawking, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. For Laura Jean for us to do together. And then she would be like, is that romantic or not? And then she would decide, what it was. But I'll tell you, staying at the Henderson at the Park Inn, there's the Henderson Park Inn, which is a small B&B on the beach. And then there is the Henderson Resort, which is a 110-room, high rise that's on the same property, but it's set back from the beach. And it also has like a 10,000 square foot spa and stuff, 2 pools, 3 restaurants. It's the full resort experience. So you get to use some of that if you stay in the Henderson. So, we did a couple spa thing there, which we've decided was extremely romantic. When we arrived at the Henderson, they had love spelled out in rose petals on the bed, which we also decided was extremely romantic, and for obvious reasons. But it turned into a really great trip. And the definition of romance that we ended up with, the theory of romance that we ended up with, was it needs to be an activity that allows you to be present with your partner. It allows you to shut out the world and just be there with the person that you love and concentrate on. That's why, for example, miniature golf turned out to be really romantic because we were able to just concentrate on each other and have a good time. So anyways, I think the story ended up being really fun. And, I'm really happy that we did it. And I hope that it helps some folks, go and have a romantic trip and improve their relationships.
I love your explanation about it, Chris. That was spot on, and we don't want to give too much of it away because we want people to pick up the magazine and look through it. And in addition to your writing, Chris, some great pictures that I guess your wife took, Laura took along the way that really kind of makes everything come to life in that article. So nice, and I really enjoyed it. What about the local wedding photographs here? Because we see the cover right here, which is a beautiful cover, lots of colors, and then the article about various local weddings. Tell me more about this.
Well, we went around to all the wedding photographers that we could find and we could think of who might have some good stuff, and we started from there. We were like, show us some of your best pics, your best images that you think would be good for the magazine, that would be publishable. And then, we worked outwards from there. And it turns out there's a lot of good photographers in this city, which is something that really working for Memphis Magazine has shown me. But, a lot of them, that's what they do, to make ends meet. They go and photograph weddings. So you can have some really great talent shooting you on the most important day of your life, and it helps out a lot of photographers who are artists in their other lives, but they do fantastic work. And I think they just did a great job sourcing all these photographs and finding, the right ones. But I do believe the one thing that story shows is that if you're going to get married in Memphis and you need a photographer, you're in good hands because we got some good folks here.
Absolutely, totally agree here. And again, this is all on the cover of the first issue of the year for Memphis Magazine. There, you can see the wedding album, Memphis Marriages in photos there. Again, the January edition of Memphis Magazine. Before we let you go, Chris, anything else you want to mention?
Hey, thank you for having me, and Happy New Year. We got some good stuff for the magazine coming up in the new year. I mentioned photography, and our February issue focuses on photographers. So once you've devoured the January issue, that's what you have to look forward to.
Well, I look forward to it. I can't wait to get it in the mail, my January edition. Look forward to each and every time it comes in the mail. Chris McCoy, we appreciate you spending time with us each and every time you do. Thanks for all the hard work. Much success to you in 2023. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Same to you.
Good morning. We have full sunshine right now with that look in Midtown Memphis. We'll keep it nice and sunny today. That will help temperatures climb out of the 40s eventually by noon at 50 degrees, 54 at 3 o'clock, and then down to the upper 40s by 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. 54 degrees is our high temperature today, and average is 51, so we're not too far off from where we should be. And then a low temperature tonight around 32, also pretty close to normal for us to get to that freezing mark. So we'll feel chilly even late tonight, but we keep it dry today and tomorrow. If you have any Friday plans, you won't have to deal with any rain. But Saturday, a 40% chance of rain and a few showers possible on Sunday too. And then after that, we'll clear everything out. So let's look at timing for that rain. Here's First Alert Futurecast Saturday at 8 a.m. Some light rain over towards Memphis, going into Brownsville, eastern Arkansas, seeing a few showers. And then rain is on and off as we go through the morning and into the early afternoon. This is noon here on First Alert Futurecast. Some spotty rain possible, but it looks like most of this will be coming to an end during the afternoon, at least in the Memphis area. But by 6 o'clock, we have more rain that develops over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. And keep an eye on that spot because that's where we could see some heavy rain by 10 or 11 o'clock at night Saturday, where you're seeing the reds and the oranges, Corinth going down into Tupelo, Ashland, Ripley, also spots like Oxford possibly getting a few downpours through that point of the evening. And I can't completely roll out a straight light shower even through early Sunday, then we clear out after that. So rainfall totals will be highest in that area in northeast Mississippi, around a ½ inch from Holly Springs into Alcorn County. And then in Memphis, wind, spots like Tunica, probably around a ½ inch of rain. So this is not going to result in flash flooding, nothing like what we had earlier this week, and also no severe weather with that one. If you want more updates on that rain chance for the weekend, go to our First Alert weather app. You can watch that First Alert Futurecast again, and I just posted a new video on there about that weekend rain. Today and tomorrow, as I mentioned, it's dry. We're in the 50s, 56 degrees on Friday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday. Some spots in North Mississippi will make it to 60 degrees, and then lows in the 40s Saturday night, 50s again on Sunday, although a little bit cooler behind that front moving through, bringing that rain. And then on Monday, we're sunny, high of 56 degrees, upper 50s Tuesday, and then still in the 50s through the end of next week.
Another superstar that's in our space, our orbit, and that's Talisa Franklin. She's joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Happy New Year to my friend Talisa. How are you?
I am wonderful. Happy New Year to you and everybody that's watching us on this morning.
So tell me how the New Year's been for you right now, Talisa. Pretty good?
Yes, amazing. You know, I have found it to be true. Many didn't make it, but we were one of the ones that did. And so we made it to 2023, and I'm just excited about it. So I have no complaints. All I know that I'm excited to be on this side of the ground.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I see that you are not wasting time when it comes to 2023, Talisa. You got things cooking already, and I know one of the big resolutions out there, you and I both know, finances, getting out of debt, making sure your money will help you in 2023. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So, you know, I am a believer, you know, many people call me, maybe I'm very frugal, I'm very cheap. they say, but I just understand that money, as my grandma would say, didn't grow on trees, right? It may be made out of trees, but it didn't grow on trees. So you have to be very wise with your finances. And so I was super excited about Pleasant Green Church reaching out to me and say, Talisa, we really want to do something to be a blessing to this community of the North Memphis community and our church. And I was like, Pastor Phillips, yes, I'm excited to come. So I am going to be facilitating for this amazing church, Pleasant Green Church of Memphis, of faith and finances. Because truly in this thing of life, you got to have faith with your finances and knowing when to buy, when not to buy, what to do, how to do it, and just know where you are financially. And so I'm excited to do a two-time every Saturday, the last 2 Saturdays of January, a free workshop. It's not going to cost people anything, Andrew. They can come. They got to register, though. Why? Because I even have a takeaway that I need people to use it to make sure they are accountable in this season so they can see how their finances and their faith has went up in 2023. And so we want everybody to go ahead and register at the pleasantgreenchurchmemphis.org. It is absolutely free. Yeah, you get two workshops for absolutely free to help you better your finances. But we need you to register so I'll know how many accountability books that I need to bring for them. And it's no fee. When I say no fee at all, for people to come out and get the knowledge they need, get the information. You know, I'm very unapologetic. I grew up in a home that we were truly the underprivileged and underserved. And so there was people in my life that pulled me to a side and helped me with my finances, and even helped me how to shift my faith in God with a different level that I never imagined I could be with God at this point in my life. And so I want to share some of those best practices, and then some of my learned best practices, and some of my best practices I have learned to make sure that people understand how to exercise your faith and your finances together. Yes.
Absolutely. I love it, Talisa. We can all, even if you think that you have a good grasp of finances, it's always good to hear other people's experiences, their successes, learn from their failures. Just try to improve yourself. Self-improvement, right? That's what we all want.
Yes. You know, many people made new resolutions to lose weight, to do this. Can you make the resolution of life that you're going to get your finances in order? Because we don't know what tomorrow holds, but we do know who holds tomorrow, right? But it's important that we get that information that we need so that we can get our finances where God wants them to be.
Absolutely. I love it, Talisa. That's a great event that's coming up. I also want to ask you about your upcoming show. It sounds like you got some interesting guests.
Yes, 2023, we'll have a new Memphis mayor. And I was like, okay, Talisa, how do you start off this year? You started off with asking all of these candidates, because, we got a plethora of candidates that is running for Memphis mayor. And so I got a few of them that I pulled out, and there will be more that we're talking. I got some really great questions that I'm asking them, the hard questions, because we need to make sure that we pick the mayor that can continue just like our current mayor. I love him, Mayor Jim Strickland. We need somebody that can pick up that torch and keep us moving forward in Memphis. We need somebody that's for the people in Memphis. And so I had so many people, mayoral candidates this week, that's going to share why they should be the next Memphis mayor. And hey, we just going to ask the questions and let the people decide for themselves.
And so that is something that's happening the 2nd through the 6th. So that is this week.
This week, yeah. This week we had, like yesterday, we had Van Turner. Today we have Paul Young. So we have different ones every single day for 45 minutes to an hour conversation. I'm hitting them with the questions because y'all know I love to talk, right? And I really want to make sure these people have the community in mind when you come down to Memphis. And so we have all of these candidates that's sharing, and we got another one coming up with some of the other candidates that is running too, because we really want to hear for real what their heart is. Why do they really want to be Memphis mayor? And I think in this season, as we're going into election seasons, we got to start voting for people just because we like them. We need to vote for them to make sure they are the change agents that we want to see right here in our city. We got to make these people accountable. I mean, accountable on all ways. They got to be accountable to help us get where we know that we're supposed to be. We're moving Memphis forward.
Absolutely. The community, the culture, the conversation, WAVN, the trends. Talisa Franklin, the one and only. Happy New Year to my friend. We love you so much. And good luck and much success to you and all your staff in 2023.
Thank you. Likewise.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. As families gather for the holidays, it's an ideal time to talk about how best to care for your loved ones and how to make their home comfortable and safe for years to come. It's an interesting topic, especially during this holiday season. Let's bring in two people who know it well, home renovation expert Ty Pennington and AARP's family and caregiving expert Amy Goyer. They're joining us to talk about the top home improvement ideas for older Americans and how to assess your loved one's need this holiday season. Good morning. How are you two?
Doing great. Thanks for having us. To be here.
Appreciate you being here. So let's talk about how you begin this conversation, because it can be kind of tough at any time of year, especially during the holiday season. Amy, we'll begin with you.
Yes, I always say it's important to talk early and often because you want to talk about things when you're not in the middle of a crisis. Nobody can make decisions when you're in that. And also because your loved one's wishes may change over time. That's why it's important to revisit it often. What you talked about the holidays. The holidays might be a really good time to observe what's going on in your loved one's life. Are they safe in the home? What are their needs? What do they need some support with? And maybe have that conversation, or at least let's say you're talking about your aging parent. Maybe you're going to have that conversation with your siblings who are together for the holidays. As you do this, think about, if you want to have that conversation, who needs to be a part of that conversation? My grandmother my uncle was the person who she listened to on certain things. And so he always needed to be a part of that conversation. Maybe it's the lawyer or the doctor or somebody that, they feel comfortable with. And really talk to them about what the options are. What are the solutions? If we want you to stop driving, here's what how you're going to get around. If we think that you're having trouble with the stairs, here's what we're going to propose on how we're going to adjust that. We're going to get a stair lift, or we're going to move your bedroom down to the first floor. So have some really practical and solid solutions for them. And then, the other thing is to make sure that you approach this in a mode of love and concern. We're all in this together. Yeah. We all have the same goal. We want our loved ones to be as independent as possible for as long as possible. And, you're not here to tell them what to do. Use I statements. Don't say, you shouldn't be doing this. Ty's experienced this with his mom. Well, yeah, parents don't really like their offspring to tell them what they should be doing. So I think having the conversation was like, we've noticed that, you're struggling with this. If we did this, would it make things a lot easier? And I think in the long run, your loved ones aren't going to ask for it, but they know they need it as well.
So Ty, you're well known to the HDTV audience. You have a very popular program on there. What's your best way, since you've been a part of this in your own personal life, what's the best way to assess or prioritize a loved one's need in this kind of situation?
Well, I think you have to do exactly what you said. You have to prioritize, right? And so I think most of the time it's pretty obvious which ones are sort of the most critical. I think you run into the bathroom situation, which is like, look, is the door wide enough to even get into to have mobility, especially if they're already starting to use a cane or a wheelchair? Does that have accessibility? Some things are simple as, like, does it have safety bars so that they can hold on to something when they're sitting down on the toilet, or even a ride
riser pad on the toilet to make life getting up or sitting down so much easier. And then it's just transition of getting in the home, right? So if you've got to go upstairs, that just becomes a real, it's sort of a nightmare because your fear is they're going to fall. And that could happen whether it's a slippery tile, it could be a loose rug. So it's those kind of things, but it can all come down to lighting. It can also come down to whether or not they have smart technology so it can help them sort of control the environment in their home. But in my mom's case too, sometimes it's a respiratory issue. So you have to focus more on the quality of the air they're breathing and putting in something like a HEPA filter. So it's really about seeing where they are sort of in their journey of aging with the house that they're in and prioritizing like what can we spend with the budget that we have now, and then just sort of gradually adapt that home to get better with age the same way they are.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, Ty. I want to follow up with that and open this next question to both of you. You mentioned that, with a budget, especially with inflation being so sky high, renovations can be very daunting. Let's talk about simple improvements to make a home safer for the family and aging loved ones. Ty, let's begin with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, you think about is like, how can we make accessibility just to get in the house easier, right? I think a ramp is pretty affordable thing you can do, whether you're doing it out of wood or there's aluminum. There's also just actually doing landscaping and pavers that go right up to your door. Sometimes that's the easiest way. But I would say accessibility, sometimes just letting them have the independence to be able to do their own laundry so that they don't feel like they're just being taken care of and being, looked after all the time. Maybe moving the washer and dryer to a location that's accessible to them so that it's not up or downstairs. But yeah, like going as big as putting in an elevator, that's a lot of money. That's something that, you really want to sort of put to the back burner. If at all possible, they can still move around in a ramp situation. I think that's going to save you a lot of money. However, you got to remember what you spend on this house that is your own family's house will be passed down to the next generation that's aging compared to what does it cost to house a family member in another location in a home. And so that's what you have to weigh. Like, what is it going to cost you a year to do that compared to the renovating of a home that's going to be in your family as everybody starts to age?
And, there are sometimes some supports to help pay for some of this. My dad was a veteran. The VA provided ramps for us, and they were these kind of rubber things that fit together like Legos, and they were threshold ramps, but they were vital for us. And the VA actually provided a lot of other supports, including a small grant to help with a bathroom remodel. There may be some supports through the Area Agency on Aging, some local organizations that will help provide ramps or build ramps. So make sure that you reach out and see if there's some supports available in your community.
Yeah, and I think during the holidays, the best thing is just observe, see where they're struggling. If they want to be part of the kitchen experience, like lower countertops, lower table, have them a place to sit where they can cut vegetables. So I think the holidays is a good time to sort of assess.
You guys are giving some great advice for our viewers that are tuning in right now. Where can people go for more information? Because you guys have hit on all kinds of great topics.
Well, visit aarp.org/caregiving, and there you're going to find all of our supports, our tips and our tools, and I have a column there. We have lots of things to talk about care at home and how to make the home safe and make it usable for caregiving as we age. So be sure to visit us there.
Okay, Ty, anything from your perspective?
I would just say keep an eye on your loved ones. I mean, it's interesting how they childproof and made everything safe when we were younger, and now we're doing it for them as they're older. It's love, it never ends.
Really appreciate the conversation this morning. A lot of useful ideas, a lot of useful tips. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, New Year's resolutions. We've been talking about it a lot over the course of the last few days, even before 2023. Which ones are the best ones to have? Which ones can you keep? How is it that most Americans give up after the first month? I mean, that's pretty sad when you think about it. You got to chuckle about it. But when we also talk about the new year, we talk about a new you and perhaps a new career path, of course. Career, workplace, that's something on top of mind of many people. Let's talk about the latest data when it comes to the current job markets and tips for launching a successful job search. Let's bring in our friend we've talked to several times in the past, Angela Copeland, who is now the founder of Copeland Coaching. Angela, Happy New Year to you. How you doing?
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here. So is it now perhaps the best time, or at least a good time, to make a career move? What do you say?
Now is an excellent time. A lot of companies, over the holidays put hiring on hold. And if you were thinking of looking for a job, this is the time that they are starting to open back up to hiring. And it's a perfect time to start looking. There are so many resources available. It's a perfect New Year's resolution. It's a great time to start.
Last year, Angela, when we talked, you mentioned that it was very much an employee market. I think everybody agreed to the indicators that it was an employees market. Is it still that way? Has it changed at all? What do you see?
It's a great question. I think it's a little more nuanced than the last time we spoke, because we have seen in the news there have been tons of layoffs over the last, few months. But I would keep in mind that those layoffs are in very particular industries, like they're in tech, for example. So there are many industries like travel, financial services, government that are actually still doing really well. And our unemployment rate overall for the U.S. in November was still 3.7%, which is a very healthy unemployment rate. So there are many companies that are still hiring. It is still a good time to be looking. I will say the dynamics have shifted some since the last time that we spoke, but it is a great time to be looking.
What type of jobs are in demand in 2023? You mentioned that there's been a lot of layoffs in tech. What do you see most in demand?
The industries I would really focus on are those that will do well through a recession, for example. And some of the areas to look in are banking, like financial services, government. The budget for 2023 was approved, and it is more than it was the previous year. And, other industries like travel, we've seen people starting to travel again. So it's kind of across all job functions. But, hotel companies, for example, are hiring again in a way that they weren't maybe this time last year. So I would really kind of focus on that. And as you're looking online for jobs, you'll see which companies seem to have more jobs posted, which companies seem to be doing better. There's just so much information when you go out and search.
Okay, so now we've talked about, where people need to search, what kind of jobs. It is a good time to kind of make this career move. So let's talk about those secrets to launching a successful job search, because we all know that launching a search is almost like having a job in of itself.
It is a job. And the thing is, it is a tough job. Job searching has really evolved in the last, let's say, 10 years. And if you haven't looked in a while, you'll feel very discouraged because you may have to apply to 100 jobs to get one job offer. And you may have family members, especially older ones, that say, what's your problem? Why aren't you getting a job? But you have to understand that with the way that so many job seekers apply online nowadays, it is a harder process than it used to be. It is really a numbers game. So I would say don't get discouraged. Find a friend who is also job searching that you can kind of commiserate with. Don't totally rely on family as you're talking about your struggles. And, another thing I really like to recommend is if you have a connection to a company, or if you can kind of figure out who the hiring manager is, rather than just applying online, to actually send an email to that person, because you really stand out when you're the one applicant that actually took the time to send an email as opposed to just applying online.
Last time we talked about various employers, again, having almost the upper hand in the job market, many of them asking for that work-life balance, working remotely. What are the trends you're seeing now in 2023? Is working remotely still one of those trends that people want, or at least they ask for, and then they get them from the employer?
It is such an excellent question. This is a really hot topic right now. So you've probably noticed in the last few months, especially, many employers have started asking employees to come back into the office, which lots of employees do not want to do because after 2 years of working from home, we really saw that it was possible. So I think a big change in the job market right now is that some companies are offering totally work from home, others are asking you to come in person, and some are giving sort of a hybrid option. So if you're a job seeker, pay attention to which is which. There are fewer work from home jobs posted right now than there were this time last year. And there's also more competition for those jobs. So I would say on the flip side, if you're a company that's struggling to hire, switching your jobs to work from home is a really good strategy because, employees, a lot of them really appreciate the flexibility of working from home. I do think, though, employers are looking for other ways to provide flexibility, whether it's like mental health days or other sorts of, different benefits that are sort of new and different. But work from home is becoming a little more rare than we saw before.
Okay, so we've talked about the job search. We've talked about various trends. We've talked about what we're seeing in 2023. Now, how do we get job seekers to negotiate the best offer that they can get?
Ooh, also very important. So I think the first thing as a job seeker is to do your homework. We are so lucky in today's day and age that there are websites like Glassdoor and LinkedIn that have a lot of salary data. So you can look on Glassdoor, for example, and you can search for a particular company, say FedEx, for example, and you can search by job title and you can get a pretty good idea of what they're paying. The other thing is when you go through the interview process, a recruiter will very often ask you in the very first interview, how much do you make or how much do you want to make? And it is much more acceptable today to turn around and say, wow, that's a great question. Would you be willing to share your range with me? And very often the employer, that recruiter, will tell you roughly what they are looking to pay. And you can say, yes, I think we're in the same ballpark without really truly disclosing your numbers. So if you're moving from one industry to another, sometimes you can even double your salary doing this because maybe this different industry pays much more money. So I think that is really the first start is don't, show your cards right away, and instead ask questions and have done your research in advance.
What about with you specifically, Angela? What are your clients' biggest struggles that you're hearing?
The biggest struggle, I think, is really the way job searching feels now. In the past, it felt more personal versus now you're often applying sort of into a black hole. You often don't hear back, or you may interview for a company 10, 11 times and then not hear even a rejection. So the entire process feels harder, I think, than in the past. And really, that is the part that the person has to overcome. I often recommend that people kind of keep a spreadsheet of sort of where they have applied and what's going on so they can kind of keep track and set goals for themselves. How many jobs are they applying to, every week or every month so they can really see. And again, it really comes down to just, it doesn't feel great. So seeking out a resource, a friend who's also job searching, they're going to have the same struggle and they will really be able to empathize with you.
Angela, let's flip the coin a little bit. What advice would you give hiring managers to land the best talent that's out there?
That is such a good question. So often hiring managers, especially I would say at well-known companies, really take for granted the experience that the person interviewing has. So if you are really interested to land the best talent, it's get back to people when you tell them you will. It is be prompt, it's be transparent. If you've decided to put a job on hold, let the person know. And I think truly, if you want the biggest number of applicants to pick from, make the job remote. Again, so many people want work from home and there are less work from home jobs available now than there have been in the past.
Angela, this has been so informative to so many of our viewers out there. Any lasting comments before we let you go?
No, I would just say, really get started now. This is the perfect time. Employers really are hiring. Don't buy into the hype that everyone is being laid off, because they're not. Get going and expect it to take, 2 or 3 months, and just kind of prepare yourself for that.
All right, she is the founder of Copeland Coaching. She knows the insight, the market trends, and has great advice if you're looking for a new career and a new job search. Angela Copeland, we always appreciate the insight. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Another superstar that's in our space, our orbit, and that's Talisa Franklin. She's joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Happy New Year to my friend Talisa. How are you?
I am wonderful. Happy New Year to you and everybody that's watching us on this morning.
So tell me how the New Year's been for you right now, Talisa. Pretty good?
Yes, amazing. I have found it to be true. Many didn't make it, but we were one of the ones that did. And so we made it to 2023, and I'm just excited about it. So I have no complaints. All I know that I'm excited to be on this side of the ground.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I see that you are not wasting time when it comes to 2023, Talisa. You got things cooking already, and I know one of the big resolutions out there, you and I both know, finances, getting out of debt, making sure your money will help you in 2023. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So, I am a believer. Many people call me, maybe I'm very frugal, I'm very cheap. They say, but I just understand that money, as my grandma would say, didn't grow on trees, right? It may be made out of trees, but it didn't grow on trees. So you have to be very wise with your finances. And so I was super excited about Pleasant Green Church reaching out to me and say, Talisa, we really want to do something to be a blessing to this community of the North Memphis community and our church. And I was like, Pastor Phillips, yes, I'm excited to come. So I am going to be facilitating for this amazing church, Pleasant Green Church in Memphis, of faith and finances. Because truly in this thing of life, you got to have faith with your finances and knowing when to buy, when not to buy, what to do, how to do it, and just know where you are financially. And so I'm excited to do a two-time every Saturday, the last 2 Saturdays of January, a free workshop. It's not going to cost people anything, Andrew. They can come. They got to register, though. Why? Because I even have a takeaway that I need people to use it to make sure they are accountable in this season so they can see how their finances and their faith has went up in 2023. And so we want everybody to go ahead and register at the pleasantgreenchurchmemphis.org. It is absolutely free. Yeah, you get twice 2 workshops for absolutely free to help you better your finances. But we need you to register so I'll know how many accountability books that I need to bring for them. And it's no fee. When I say no fee at all, for people to come out and get the knowledge they need, get the information. I'm very unapologetic. I grew up in a home that we were truly the underprivileged and underserved. And so there was people in my life that pulled me to a side and helped me with my finances, and even helped me how to shift my faith in God with a different level that I never imagined I could be with God at this point in my life. And so I want to share some of those best practices, and then some of my learned best practices, and some of my best practices I have learned to make sure that people understand how to exercise your faith and your finances together. Yes.
Absolutely. I love it, Talisa. We can all, even if you think that you have a good grasp of finances, it's always good to hear other people's experiences, their successes, learn from their failures. Just try to improve yourself. Self-improvement, right? That's what we all want.
Yes. Many people made new resolutions to lose weight, to do this. Can you make the resolution of life that you're going to get your finances in order? Because we don't know what tomorrow holds, but we do know who holds tomorrow, right? But it's important that we get that information that we need so that we can get our finances where God wants them to be.
Absolutely. I love it, Talisa. That's a great event that's coming up. I also want to ask you about your upcoming show. It sounds like you got some interesting guests.
Yes, 2023, we'll have a new Memphis mayor. And I was like, okay, Talisa, how do you start off this year? You started off with asking all of these candidates, because, you know, we got a plethora of candidates that is running for Memphis mayor. And so I got a few of them that I pulled out, and there will be more that we're talking. I got some really great questions that I'm asking them, the hard questions, because we need to make sure that we pick the mayor that can continue, just like our mayor, current mayor, I love him, Mayor Jim Strickland. We need somebody that can pick up that torch and keep us moving forward in Memphis. We need somebody that's for the people of Memphis. And so I had so many people, mayoral candidates this week, that's going to share why they should be the next Memphis mayor. And hey, we just going to ask the questions and let the people decide for themselves.
And so that is something that's happening the 2nd through the 6th. So that is this week.
This week, yeah. This week we had, like yesterday, we had Van Turner. Today we have Paul Young. So we have different ones every single day for 45 minutes to an hour conversation. I'm hitting them with the questions because y'all know I love to talk, right? And I really want to make sure these people have the community in mind when you come down to Memphis. And so we have all of these candidates that's sharing, and we got another one coming up with some of the other candidates that is running too, because we really want to hear for real what their heart is. Why do they really want to be Memphis mayor? And I think in this season, as we're going into election season, we got to start voting for people just because we like them. We need to vote for them to make sure they are the change agents that we want to see right here in our city. We got to make these people accountable. I mean, accountable on all ways. They got to be accountable to help us get where we know that we're supposed to be. We're moving Memphis forward.
Absolutely. The community, the culture, the conversation, WAVN, the trends. Talisa Franklin, the one and only. Happy New Year to my friend. We love you so much. And good luck and much success to you and all your staff in 2023.
Thank you. Likewise.
Good morning. We have full sunshine right now with that look in Midtown Memphis. We'll keep it nice and sunny today. That will help temperatures climb out of the 40s eventually by noon at 50 degrees, 54 at 3 o'clock, and then down to the upper 40s by 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. 54 degrees is our high temperature today, and average is 51, so we're not too far off from where we should be. And then a low temperature tonight around 32, also pretty close to normal for us to get to that freezing mark. So we'll feel chilly even late tonight, but we keep it dry today and tomorrow. If you have any Friday plans, you won't have to deal with any rain. But Saturday, a 40% chance of rain and a few showers possible on Sunday too. And then after that, we'll clear everything out. So let's look at timing for that rain. Here's First Alert Futurecast Saturday at 8 a.m. Some light rain over towards Memphis, going into Brownsville, eastern Arkansas, seeing a few showers. And then rain is on and off as we go through the morning and into the early afternoon. This is noon here on First Alert Futurecast. Some spotty rain possible, but it looks like most of this will be coming to an end during the afternoon, at least in the Memphis area. But by 6 o'clock, we have more rain that develops over towards Oxford, Ashland, and Corinth. And keep an eye on that spot because that's where we could see some heavy rain by 10 or 11 o'clock at night Saturday. We're seeing the reds and the oranges, Corinth going down into Tupelo, Ashland, Ripley. Also spots like Oxford possibly getting a few downpours through that point of the evening. And I can't completely roll out a straight light shower even through early Sunday, then we clear out after that. So rainfall totals will be highest in that area, northeast Mississippi, around a ½ inch from Holly Springs into Alcorn County. And then in Memphis, Wynn, spots like Tunica, probably around a ½ inch of rain. So this is not going to result in flash flooding, nothing like what we had earlier this week, and also no severe weather with that one. If you want more updates on that rain chance for the weekend, go to our First Alert weather app. You can watch that First Alert Futurecast again, and I just posted a new video on there about that weekend rain. Today and tomorrow, as I mentioned, is dry. We're in the 50s, 56 degrees on Friday. Temperatures in the upper 50s on Saturday. Some spots in North Mississippi will make it to 60 degrees, and then lows in the 40s Saturday night, 50s again on Sunday, although a little bit cooler behind that front moving through, bringing that rain. And then on Monday, we're sunny, high of 56 degrees, upper 50s Tuesday, and then still in the 50s through the end of next week.
And as for us here in the Action News 5 digital desk, Action News 5 at midday coming up at the top of the hour with Ariana Poindexter, and then Spencer Denton will have the latest on your First Alert forecast. Make sure you join us bright and early tomorrow morning for a Friday edition of the Action News 5 digital desk beginning at 8 o'clock. See you then.